Mozingo,
Here.
Member Norrie, Member Schaefer, and Member Wiggins. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, if there's public comment, period. Are you coming up? Okay. Well, that was a pretty tough deal to bring them to this exciting meeting. So they were excited for a while. Pretty cool.
Thank you, Chair. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. I'd like to welcome the new member of the board or the commission, Mr. Andrew Williams. Sorry. No plural. Well, yeah, plurals. Thank you. I passed this out because I needed to be refreshed on just what your powers and duties and Open Space Advisory Committee, and I was surprised at some of the powers, and I would like very much for you all to take these very seriously because we're moving into a time when there's opportunity, perhaps through BLM or other things as far as properties and corridors. Brenda Hunt had put in for a position, and she had mentioned corridors are very important. And the more I read about the movements of the birds and their travels across the country, this state is very important. Now, I know where my sister is. She has 95 different species that move through her property, over her property during their migrations. Carson City doesn't have that many, but it has quite a few. And unless we set perimeters on lighting, which is very difficult for birds to navigate through, or have considerations for at least some areas that have resting spaces, water, and some at least foliage that they might be able to graze, or on the insects in those foliages, we're going to have a problem. A lot of places put in cornfields for different species to come over, like ducks. They set up a position so that they will come so they can hunt them, of course, but that the thing is that they set aside land for that corn so that those geese or ducks come over. They have ample supply to carry them on in their migration. Otherwise, I watched the children's, am I out of time already?
No. I don't know what it just went nuts. Well, I guess it's going down to the seconds now.
Is that seconds?
I've never seen that before.
Well, that's rather distracting. But the main thing is, I watched a child's program 3:30 this morning, and it talked about the hazards of having additions or what you call improvements in open space. Those open space improvements actually diminish the environment that it's intended to have people enjoy and animals to exist in. And I would really like you to deal that. Also, the sky now has its own ecosystem coordination, just like the sea and land. It is so full of things that you would just not want to know, right? I just don't want to breathe. But the deal is that we have to be very conscientious in this valley because we're not saving places between these new housings. And we haven't really taken migration into consideration of insects as well as birds. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, is that what it was? I thought it was another earthquakes or something. Moving past the building here. Drive underneath your desk. So under public comment, I'm going to introduce our newest member to the board, or committee, sorry. Blake, I thought it was Bill Anderson I read on there. So but
my legal name's William. So it's, but everyone goes by their middle of my family. So I go by Bill.
So I'd like you to spend a few minutes and say how excited you are and so your family can see how great this is. He brought his family.
Yeah.
That's a new requirement now.
Hi guys, I'm very excited. I spoke in my interview. We're avid users of our open space, and it's very important to me in my parenting methodology to teach my children about the world around them, and protecting and preserving the resources are super important to us and to me. As they've gotten older now is a good time to get like back involved in the community, and this just seemed like a real natural place. Very excited, super eager to learn. I imagine there's going to be a lot to absorb, and I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, tonight's, you couldn't have picked a better open space meeting to come to for education of what this is all about. Staff spent a whole year putting all this stuff together. So I'm glad you were able to do it through all of what was going on and scheduling, but it all worked out.
Yeah, it was close. We just got back into town, but we made it work.
Good. All right. Well, thank you. Welcome. And away we go, huh? Next is approval of the minutes. Is there any changes, or do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, but I did notice my name was missing on the list of committee members. And
I told you.
And I attended that. I attended that meeting. I want credit at the
I
very
know
top.
that. That's a bummer that happened. So that's a mistake that I'm glad
So-
you caught. So with that,
With that, unless anyone else has any, I'll make a motion to approve the draft meeting minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. Sam, second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Nays and abstentions.
Abstention.
Like we'll do it. Abstention.
I might note, we didn't have a meeting last meeting.
Yeah. We didn't have a meeting last.
We're approving the minutes like. from
Yes.
before.
This was a joint meeting. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, meeting items. 5A, for possible action, discussion, possible action regarding the election of chair and vice chair of Open Space Committee. And we do it every spring, but our spring is clean into summer almost, instead of the first meeting. And I miserably failed with some level of humor by giving a speech last time, the meeting we had, and nobody knew where it came from. That accordingly I shall not seek and I will not accept the nomination for the committee for another term as your president. So I announced that, but that was 4 months ago. Now that was when President Lyndon Johnson, who took Kennedy's place actually. So the plan was not to be here as chair again, because I think it's very healthy to change leadership on the groups like this. And if there's people willing to do that, I thought I had a vice chair. That person left. So it kind of reduced and makes me think about how it's going to work. So I'm trying to keep it as smooth as possible. So I always like to see people like Jay or Sam that's been on the committee for a long time to think about it, because you've been on for a while and feel comfortable. But I did talk to Mary, and she's willing to be vice chair. So I was going to do vice chair first. So the process is, if there's somebody else that wants to be vice chair, or you want to nominate somebody for vice chair, this is your chance to do that. Before, because I need a nomination for Mary, I can't do it sitting in the seat.
I'll nominate Mary. I would second that as the vice chair.
Okay, and I have a second. I don't have to call that in to vote or not, because the way this is written up. I stumble with this every time. It's not easy to do.
I think for the nominations, it's more or less up to you. If you want a second, you can have it seconded. If not, I think just one nomination is fine. But for the actual vote, to vote them in, you need to have a motion and then a second for that part.
Yeah, that's what I expect to do. So now we're at the chairman. So if anybody has any interest to carry that, or would like to be a part of that, now's your chance to nominate.
I've done it before, so I can do it. But if someone else wants the experience and do it, go for it.
Did you just nominate yourself?
I nominate him.
Him? Jay? Okay, we have willingness, which is good.
Who else are we missing?
Mary. Yeah, Mary's, and that's the perfect time to nominate him because they're not here to defend themselves. So, but I do have an email that said she would be willing to do that. So, anybody else? Speaker forever. Hold your peace. I guess. So we have a nomination for chair and a nomination for vice chair. So the way it's written in here is an action item. What were the words?
So did Jay nominate himself or did Chuck do that?
No,
I did.
Oh, okay. I hear you.
he was up first.
Nominated Jay.
He was doing this at first. He made it more formal.
Sam, are you sure? I came on at the same time.
I remember that day we came on together.
There's no
appreciate-
increase in salary whatsoever.
I know. If I didn't have a 5-month-old daughter, I would love to contribute, but I would have to bow out for this one.
Well, we do have a babysitting service. And,
Yeah, that might convince me. Yeah.
Not a diaper change.
Yeah.
You said that.
Well, that's fine to have that motion and two willing parties. And so let's, it says in here, I need to see the motion on your staff report. Can somebody make the motion?
Motion.
Oh, well, here's the wording.
I move to elect Mary Wiggins for chair and Mary Bird for vice chair for Open Space Advisory Committee for the 2026 calendar year.
Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Second, Keith. Any more discussion? Hearing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. You had another chance.
Congratulations. Well done.
Yeah, you don't have to recluse yourself from that one. So that means that you have the meeting, Jay.
What? I wasn't
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
do that.
Step right up.
Do you want to take this one, or you want me to?
Well, I don't know how that works. Once you're elected chair,
Is duly
to have a
elected.
substitute.
You can arrange it how you please among yourselves.
Gentlemanly agreement.
Mark, if you would like to, Jay and Mark, if you would like Mark to finish the meeting, you're more than welcome to. Jay, if you would like to take over, you're also more than welcome to.
As a point of discussion, can the chair, invite another member to conduct the meeting periodically, or does the chair have to conduct?
Well, you have a vice chair, so if you have a vice, that would be.
Right. But, yeah, we could probably share that.
So if you're relinquishing, I'm $50 an hour now, so. I don't mind doing this meeting because it's a tough shot to come in and say, all of a sudden you're running the
Look at the
meeting.
time.
I mean, I actually read everything, so I'm prepared to do it.
Well,
but
I
go
hope
ahead.
so. It's up to you.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right.
I want to move seats and make this on.
My last hoorah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now back to the agenda. Or now they do this. Okay. Why do I do that? Okay, next on the agenda. That went smoothly. Thank you. And I want to thank, in the comment here, is that, life you can go through sitting in the bleachers and saying all you want, but you guys came out of the bleachers and you're out doing stuff. And I think that I have a lot of respect for people who do that and come out and be a part of this process. And it's really important that this happens, and you guys are willing to do that, and I think that's great. And then taking leadership role. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Mary, to see this run smoothly, because it's important. I remember seeing the Board of Supervisors, the mayor giving a speech, and I think a third of the speech was about open space. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but that's how important it is to this community that for their annual statement. It was a part of the program. So thank you for that. And I'll move on to 5B, discussion and possible action regarding the 2025 annual report of activities of the Open Space Advisory Committee to be presented to the supervisors. When are you going to give to the supervisors? Just curiosity.
Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager for the record. So as noted, the previous meeting was canceled due to a snowstorm. And so we shuffled all of those normal February items to this meeting. So after we present this to you today, I'm planning on bringing this before the board on May 7th. So soon.
Cool.
Yes.
Will it be an abridged one or will it be the one?
I mean, we typically give kind of a high-level overview of the whole report, so we want to show off and celebrate
hope
everything
so.
we've done. So,
Great.
yeah.
Good job.
So I'll
Thank
let you all know, and you're welcome to attend.
All right, it's in your lap.
Okay, so activities for 2025, and I have my esteemed team here to walk through all of the amazing things that we did last year. Just want to highlight our staff. So we have 7 full-time staff and 2 part-time staff to manage over 7,000 acres, which works out to be some crazy amount of acres per person, which is amazing. So I always say that we have a very small but mighty team, and I'm very proud and impressed of the team that we have. So in addition to myself, we have Greg Bergeron as our trails coordinator. We have Marina Lovejoy as our senior natural resource specialist. Aaron Larson, our volunteer coordinator. Bob Tonseth, who's our open space maintenance foreman, and his 2 maintenance workers, Joe Steele and Kyle Vonderwerth. And then we have our part-timers. So Nancy McMillan is our trailhead caretaker, and then Travis Navarro has been our intern throughout this year. So we've got a great mix of folks, and I am just so proud of them. So I did provide just a history of open space in here, especially when we bring this before the board and for the public. It's just important to highlight how open space came to be. So a reminder and education for our newest member, the Open Space Division was created out of the Quality of Life Initiative, which was passed in 1996, which increased sales tax by 1/4%. And those funds go towards parks, trails, and open space. Our very first ever open space property we acquired was Moffett Open Space, which is located just off Fairview near our office. And then the most recent acquisition that we did was in 2025. It was a very, very small parcel along the Carson River. We acquired it through like a tax delinquency situation. So anytime there's something on the river, we will snatch it up, and we got that for free, which was great. So you can see our graph here shows those acquisitions over time. That huge increase right around 2015 is when we completed the Omnibus Public Lands Management Act, where we received about half of our acres from the BLM and from the Forest Service. So that was a significant acquisition. And then since then have definitely been shifting gears from acquisition to management. But of course, there are always properties that we keep our eye on. And I always like to highlight that the open space program is incredibly unique. You all know that there's no other program like this in the state of Nevada. Neighboring counties have tried to pass a similar ballot measure and haven't been able to get it to pass. So we're very fortunate, and we're very unique in Carson City. I talk a little bit just about kind of our accomplishments, like the 11 miles of Carson River corridor that we've been able to preserve and protect since the beginning of open space. That is an incredible accomplishment. Protecting the floodplain and protecting the river corridor has been one of our main priorities. By protecting the river, we're able to keep it in a natural state, keep development out of the river. So when we do have floods, which we know that we do have periodic flooding, we don't have the significant damage that we see in other communities where their floodplain is developed. Preserving ranching history has been a big priority for us as well. Silver Saddle Ranch and Buzzy's Ranch, and then just our hillsides and our view sheds. So those are kind of the 3 categories of properties that we seek to preserve and protect, and there's some pockets of things all in between there as well. So I would just love to highlight that, we're truly lucky that the voters 30 years ago had the foresight in mind to protect this landscape and essentially tax themselves to increase our quality of life. And it is the 30th anniversary of quality of life this year. We're very excited about that. So there's going to be a celebration in the fall and just some other kind of things throughout the year to highlight that accomplishment. So then going into land acquisitions, as I mentioned, we have definitely been slowing down on acquisitions through the years. As of the end of last year, we had just under 7,400 acres. And using quality of life funds, that has come to a cost of about $11 million. And then we used another $8 million in grant funds to purchase all those properties. So That is an enormous amount of money. It averages out to about 2,600 per acre that we've purchased over the years, which is some really cool numbers. I did want to highlight the Buzzy's Ranch Water Rights Acquisition Project because that was a significant acquisition over the last many years. That's been one of the main projects that I've been working on. We completed our two most recent acquisitions just into 2026, so I'll be telling you guys about that later, but the bulk of the work to get there was completed in 2025, the appraisals, all the back and forth, the agreements. So we really spent a lot of time in 2025 making that happen and getting water rights that are needed for Buzzy's Ranch, which is amazing. Moving on from acquisitions, I did just want to highlight all of the grant funds that we have. You all know that staff take grants very seriously. We try to go after as much grant funding as humanly possible. So in 2025, we had 10 individual grants that totaled nearly $7 million just for the open space division. And you can see all of those laid out here. A lot of them for trail projects and trailhead renovation, as well as noxious weeds and restoration, hazardous fuels, all kinds of things. So anytime we can stretch out our Q18 funds further by applying and receiving grant funds, we do it. And I think we're pretty good at it. Jumping into capital improvement projects. So wanted to highlight the project for the Sea Hill flag. So you all have probably noticed that the flag is been missing for a while, which is interesting lack of something on our landscape. So in partnership with the Sea Hill Flag Foundation, that was a project that we worked on. Also the Parks and Recreation Foundation have been involved. So the flag was in much need of some TLC. So we had a work day last fall, removed all of the panels. Now there's going to be work to kind of fix the foundation and then ultimately put new panels back on. And I think they're aiming for July 4th as like a unveiling for the new flag. So there will be brand new flag panels coming back, and we're excited for that and thankful for that partnership. As far as the Prison Hill West project is concerned, that was a very exciting project, $2.4 million from SNPLMA, the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act. The main components of that project were renovation of the Coons Lane Trailhead. If you all have not been there yet, it's fantastic. We got all new facilities, new parking, vault toilet, ADA parking, picnic shelter. And then the other part of that was construction of a 2.5-mile accessible trail along the west side of Prison Hill. So that is another portion of our Prison Hill Loop Trail, which is very exciting. We also added some kind of crosswalk and flashing beacons to allow people to safely access from those neighborhoods. We also put in some interpretive panels. So we finished this project in May. We had a wonderful grand opening, and it's just been so exciting to see how many people have been using that space. Other capital improvement projects at the Prison Hill OHV area, we received some recreational trails funding to put in a vault toilet, which was much needed down there. The portable restroom that we had before was constantly vandalized. So having a vault toilet there is much better. Has completely fixed that vandalizing issue that we had. We also were able to put in some interp panels and just really celebrate some of the unique natural history that we have down there. So definitely some work that was put into the OHV area. Another exciting capital improvement project that was finished recently, the Mexican Dam Portage. So if you guys have taken a walk south of the dam, we have installed essentially a boater takeout. So if folks are floating the aquatic trail, they can safely exit the river before they get to the dam and then portage their boats around the dam and then put back on below the dam, which is fantastic. This was in partnership with CWSD and RTP. We just did a ribbon cutting for this just the other day. We had a bunch of VIPs out, did a demonstration float. So that was very, very exciting. And we're happy to get this project under our belt because ultimately this now allows for the aquatic trail to be extended into Douglas County in the future. And then last capital improvement project I'll mention before I pass it on to Greg is the Riverview Trailhead project. So this is another SNPLMA funded project to renovate the trailhead at Riverview Park at the end of Fifth Street. This and the Korean War Memorial. This is an area that is our most popular trailhead and in desperate need of a makeover. There's very aged infrastructure there. So it's going to be a full redesign with new parking, new restroom facilities, new picnic tables, benches, the whole nine. So we're very excited for that project. We're currently finalizing plans. So looking forward to that in the coming year. And with that, I'll turn it over to Greg to tell us about our trail accomplishments.
Thank you, Lindsay. So for the record, Greg Bergeron, Trails Coordinator. In addition to the projects that Lindsay just mentioned, we had several other projects, including the Carson River Trail. You have a sticker that you received tonight with the new logo we have for the Carson River Trail. So we effectively rebranded several segments, well, 6 segments of existing trail along the Carson River to create the Carson River Trail, and that's the Empire Ranch segment, Eagle Creek, Riverview, Buzzy's Ranch, Silver Saddle Ranch, and the Mexican Ditch. And the Buzzy's Ranch segment has been included in the Audubon's Birdability website, which is committed to making birding community and the outdoors accessible, safe, welcoming, and inclusive for everybody and everybody. And so in addition to like the Prison Hill Trail that Lindsay talked about, we made this trail, which is also accessible, and we're trying to make as many trails accessible to the population within Carson City as we can, so that everybody of any size, shape, or ability can enjoy our open space areas. We're working on Sea Hill Trail realignment, and that's a volunteer project on behalf of Muscle Powered. There's 2 components to that. The first component is a McKay Drive trailhead to Lincoln Bypass connector, which is almost finished. And that will allow a person to ride a mountain bike from the McKay Drive trailhead on Sea Hill all the way around to the Lincoln Bypass and to Cap Tahoe and to the Tahoe Rim Trail. And the second part of that, which we haven't started yet, will be redeveloping or rerouting the existing trail that goes to the sea, because that is probably one of the worst trails we have in Carson City. It's just user-built trails over the years. And so our plan with that is not to make it mountain bike friendly, rather make it just pedestrian friendly. What we want to avoid is creating a scar across Sea Hill that's visible from throughout the community. So we want to try to keep it a fairly steep alignment. We'll try to utilize some portions of the existing trail where we can, and where we can't, we'll realign them, make it sustainable, make it easier to use, but we also want to keep it as not visible as we can for our viewscape. And other single track projects on Prison Hill, Muscle Powered, again, working on the popular Odyssey Trail. They're making quite a bit of progress on that. When that's completed, that'll be a 5-mile loop that'll wind its way through the canyons and ridges of Prison Hill. And last year they completed a realignment of the upper portion of Dead Truck Canyon. If you haven't been on that, that's a really, really nice realignment that's being used now with the Escape from Prison Hill run. And I love the photo right below there in the right, kind of in the middle, right hand, with the gals on the bikes. That's the Odyssey Trail, and that photo was taken by Christy Chamberlain when she was out as part of our Trails Challenge project. That photo was submitted as part of the Trails Challenge, so I love that photo. And Sea Hill FEMA trail repair. So the big wide trail that was constructed as a fire break on Sea Hill, we did some repair on that. That's a very, very popular hiking trail. RMAC Construction, who adopted that trail, did the work for us after we supplied 70 tons of road base. So you can see the before and after photos, and we did quite a bit of work on that. We produced a new trail map for Prison Hill this year, and that is available at all the trailheads on Prison Hill, and it's also available on carsoncity.gov/trails. You can download it and print it out for your use. And an update on the Ash Canyon Trailhead. So that is a part of a federal land access program grant that's being led by Public Works, but it will eventually complete a new trailhead, badly needed trailhead in the Ash Canyon area, just below the water tanks. And that is scheduled to go out for bid for construction in the fall of '27. So really looking forward to that. And then last year, Muscle Powered put in hundreds of hours of trail maintenance on the west side of town, and our open space staff joined them for what we thought was going to be a really nice, fun day in May. And you can, as you can see from the photo, we wound up being in a snowstorm, and we had to come down early. It was we couldn't even see the trail we were working on. It was one of those late season storms, though, but it was fun. Centennial Regional Trails Project. So that is a big project that was originally proposed by Muscle Powered back in 2015, and it's intended to be a series of trails connecting the Centennial Park in Carson City to Washoe Lake State Park, to McClellan Peak, to other points in Washoe County, and maybe eventually even into Virginia City. So in 2020, Muscle Powered submitted a formal plan for a 22-mile system of trails. And in 2023, BLM conducted public scoping for the project, which included partners Muscle Powered, Carson City, Washoe County, and Nevada State Parks. And in 2025, the Centennial Regional Trails Project was adopted into the Truckee Meadows Trails Plan, and BLM began working on the NEPA and cultural clearances for that project, which they have now completed. Carson City applied for a recreational trails program grant to complete a phase 1, which will connect Centennial Park to Gonai Road, and then using the existing roads and trails will make essentially a connection to Washoe Lake State Park. And so we have the funding, and we'll be moving forward with that project in the coming months. And with that, I will turn it over to our Senior Natural Resource Specialist, Marina Lovejoy.
Hi, everyone. For the record, Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist. So I'll start by talking about the sheep project. 2025 was year 19. I'll talk about year 2026, towards the end of the meeting. But year 19 was a great year, as always. About 2,500 sheep grazing the hillsides west of town. And for those of you that aren't familiar, this sheep grazing project started in response to the waterfall fire in 2004. Burned about 8,000 acres on the west side of town. And so each year we get sheep from Board of Land and Sheep Company to reduce the fuel loads and hopefully prevent a catastrophic wildfire from happening again out there. That partnership with Board of Land and Sheep has been going on for the entirety of this project, and we're so thankful to them that they want to keep doing this project with us. So I'll have a letter from Ted Borda that I'll read towards the end of the meeting, thanking you all for that OSAC award that his company received. Okay, let's see. Oh, another great thing about the sheep program last year was that we received almost $90,000 in grant funding from the Nevada Division of Forestry. We have not received grant funding or sought grant funding for this project up until last year. And that was really instrumental in helping us pay the fire department. They go out daily, multiple times a day to give water to the sheep. And then we were also able to pay for some fencing around the Quill pasture that I'll talk about a little bit later as well. Lots of revegetation and restoration projects took place last year. At the Empire Ranch Trail, I received some funding from Carson Water Subconservancy District to purchase about 1,000 plants to put in the ground along sections of that trail. I'm doing kind of a study looking at different soil types, different weed treatments, different plant palettes in different areas to see if there's kind of a winning combination to help restore the areas that are really inundated with noxious weeds. So I'll be presenting probably a more in-depth report on that later in the year. Every time I go out there, there's lots of plants that are still alive, which is really good because we're not giving them supplemental water. But anyways, we had a large staff workday that's pictured here. We had a lot of staff and some of our inmate crew helping us put those plants in the ground. And it was a good bonding experience for everyone. Riverview Park, I'm sure if you've been out there, you've wondered where all the dead sagebrush went. The fire department masticated about 17 acres of sagebrush. You can see in the map, it's those areas in red. We knew that there's a large presence of noxious weeds that was underneath the sagebrush. It's coming up again. That's not surprising. But to try and lessen that response, we had staff and volunteers out there broadcasting native seeds. I have a little bit more of an update that I'll talk about later on as well. More seeding took place, this time at the Kuntz parcel near Prison Hill West Trailhead. Lots of decommissioning that our staff did, and then we had volunteers out there broadcasting seeds. Next, I'll talk about all of the monitoring that I do. We do annual bird surveys along the Buzzy's Ranch Trail and through Riverview to kind of compare if there's any changes in the migratory bird populations that are coming through the area pre-construction of Buzzy's Ranch Trail and post-construction. And long story short, there's not been a noticeable difference, which is good. Lots of monitoring in the Prison Hill burn scar. The pictures on page 13 show the differences from the year following the fire and last year, and there's notable differences on different aspects, different facing slopes. It's very, very typical on north-facing slopes to see a better native plant response, and that's what we're seeing. South-facing slopes that are hotter, drier, have more sun exposure, that's where we typically see invasive plants dominating, and that's the case here. But the north-facing slopes are looking pretty good. We did a really exciting trial study last fall, had lots of amazing partners from Corteva Agriscience, Nutrient Ag, Agricultural Resource Service, Ag Drone Service, Carson Valley Weed Control, and Plant Healthcare. They really rallied behind this idea that I had to try and see if drone herbicide application will work in this setting. It's not uncommon to see helicopters go out and spray herbicides, but drones are kind of a new thing. They can be much closer to the vegetation canopy, supposedly, force the herbicide down to the ground a little bit better than helicopters. And so I have 4 test plots up on Prison Hill, and I've been looking at the results of that just recently. And we're seeing some interesting things, some good things, yeah. So I'll report on that more later in the year. But it was a great learning opportunity too. We had maybe 30 or 40 other professionals in the area come out when that drone was flying and putting the herbicide out. So it was really cool opportunity for other professionals in the area. Sea Hill fire, that was in July of last year. This is a great picture showing trails as resilient infrastructure. This is just a really narrow single track, but you can very clearly see where the fire stopped burning. I also would like to say this is where the sheep graze, and we can't say definitively, but I definitely think that this fire could have been much bigger if we didn't have sheep grazing that area for the last 19 years. So we'll keep an eye out on Sea Hill. Cottonwood inventorying. Lindsay mentioned that we have an intern, Travis Navarro. He has spent countless hours inventorying our cottonwood trees by the river. He's looking at things like, is there beaver damage to these trees? Is there any wire wrapping that needs to be fixed? Do we need to do more of it out there? Are the trees posing any hazards to hikers in the area? All that sort of thing. I have a little bit more of an update on that later, but he's just been having a blast out there in the field and great early career experience. And now I think I will pass it back to Lindsay.
Thank you, Marina. Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager for the record. So I added this into the report this year because I wanted to highlight all the amazing things that our maintenance staff do as well. So for all of those 7,400 acres, we really only have 3 full-time maintenance staff who are responsible for really kind of the boots on the ground implementation of projects and maintenance out there. So they are a really small but mighty team, but they are amazing. So I wanted to highlight some of the projects they worked on this past year. This photo here is our maintenance crew along with someone from fire and our city manager, Glenn Martell, up on Sea Hill. That we were doing some work up there to widen the trail to make it easier for the Sea Hill Flag project to be done. So that was great getting our city manager up on the trails. One big thing that they spend a lot of time doing throughout the years is fuels reduction. An interesting fact, we have almost 11 miles that the open space program manages at the wildland urban interface. So where our open space meets neighborhoods and places where people are. And so that's where we focus a lot of our fuel reduction, doing mastication and things like that to try to reduce wildfire risk right there where we have property and humans. So a lot of time spent working on defensible space in this past year. Some of the big areas include like Lakeview, Gonai, the Mexican Ditch, Lone Mountain, along Prison Hill. So they're kind of all over the place working on fuel reduction. Another big area that they spend a lot of time, noxious and nuisance weed treatment. So along our trails and then also just interspaces throughout open space. Some of our noxious weeds like perennial pepperweed, hoary cress, poison hemlock, Canada thistle, those are ones that we're constantly battling. We also have a lot of nuisance weeds that just start to encroach on the trail. So they spend a lot of time both doing herbicide treatments where those noxious weeds kind of necessitate it, but we also do mowing and things like that to reduce our reliance on herbicides. So that keeps them very busy. The OHV area, they spend a lot of time in. For those who aren't aware, our maintenance staff go out to the OHV area once a week, and they're driving around and they're fixing signs and they're, trying to erase new trails that are being created, and they're working on erosion control and vertical mulching and all kinds of things. So we're very proud that we can kind of carve them out and have them spend that time at the OHV area because as the few areas where we have motorized recreation, it does require a little bit more TLC. So in addition to that, they are often doing tree trimming and removal. Like this example out at Silver Saddle, we had a hazard tree. One of our cottonwoods reached its end of its life and had some pretty big branches come down, and then ultimately was deemed that the whole thing just needed to come out. So we borrowed this giant bucket truck, and Bob Tonseth, our open space maintenance foreman, who's also a certified arborist, was able to get in the truck and take this giant tree down, which is just amazing. We're also working on things like Russian olive removal along the river. So definitely a lot of tree activity in open space. The Mexican ditch does require significant maintenance to make sure that the irrigation water can be conveyed to Silver Saddle and Buzzies and other ranches in Carson. So removing willows to try to keep the flow, getting in there when it's dry, removing debris and trash and that kind of thing. Sometimes dredging is required to clean out excess sediment accumulation. And then we do have Eurasian water milfoil, which is a Class A noxious weed. And so we do herbicide treatment for that. We'll shut the ditch off, dry it out, spray, let it kind of settle in, and then we'll turn the ditch back on. And that all just keeps the ditch flowing because we need to ensure that those irrigation waters can reach the ag lands. And then in addition to all of those things, they're also working on just kind of our access roads and our parking areas and making sure they're free of potholes and maintaining those throughout the year. Ash Canyon Road, Kings Canyon Road, those are all roads that we manage. So the maintenance staff is very busy year-round. In terms of activities and events, I wanted to highlight the Pollinator Palooza. This was a very exciting event that we had held last year. You guys are probably aware of the annual Pollinator Parade that we have every year. Well, last year we took it up a notch and we had a Palooza. So we partnered with the Nevada State Museum and we had this giant education day at the museum. So there was tons and tons of vendors. They were selling honey, they were selling native plants, they were educating people about native plants, they were doing kids crafts, making bees. We gave away a little bee antenna. We had over 100 people join the parade this year, which is the most we've ever had by far. We had a chalk art contest. We had food trucks. So it was just an amazing day. It was a great partnership with the museum. Then, if that wasn't enough, we did a whole other thing at the Carson Mall, and we had a magician, and there was chocolate and honey sales. We did a flash mob bee waggle dance, which are not words that I ever expected to use in combination with one another. But for those of you who don't know, a waggle dance with bees is how they communicate where the honey is. So we had the children do a little waggle dance to educate them about how bees communicate. So it was a very successful day. We had tons of local businesses participate. It was a great partnership, and the event's coming back in 2026. The Carson River Master Plan. This was another big project that we spent a lot of time on in the past year. The original master plan was written in 1996, so it's due for an update. So we have been working on that for several years now, and 2025 was a year spent doing tons of outreach. So we had meetings with our stakeholders, we had workshops with stakeholders, we had a Carson River Day, so a public outreach event for the community. So all of those events were geared at gathering feedback from both our technical experts that we invited to participate in the process, as well as the public. We did a survey, so there was a lot of outreach that was done to help inform that process. Now we are in the writing stage of the plan, so taking all of that feedback that we got and incorporating it into the plan, and then ultimately in the future we will be bringing that final plan before you guys for review. Another exciting thing we did as part of that was a float. So all the stakeholders who had spent so much time and effort helping us and giving us feedback, we took them on a float down the Carson River as well. So last year was very busy with the Carson River and outreach to help inform that process. Another really exciting kind of outreach event, the Carson City to Canada Quest. So we had 2 hikers who ultimately completed a 1,600-mile journey from the steps of the Capitol all the way to Canada, using the Capitol to Tahoe Trail, the Tahoe Rim Trail, and then ultimately jumping on the Pacific Crest Trail. So this was in partnership with Visit Carson City. It was this awesome marketing strategy. Ultimately, it ended up getting Carson City and the Cap to Tahoe Trail in all kinds of news and media outlets, all radios and tons of news stories. There was even some international travel exposure. So it was just an amazing way to get Carson City on the map and really highlight this amazing trail and this amazing opportunity where you can literally hike from Carson City to Canada. And 2 people did that, and they were successful, and they each received $5,000 as part of their journey. So we were very proud and excited to follow along with that effort. Greg had mentioned the Trails Challenge. So last year was our 2nd annual of the Trails Challenge. And then we're doing it again this year. Each year it just gets bigger and bigger. This is a great way to get the community aware of all the amazing trails that we have in Carson and kind of incentivize them to get out on the trail and send us pictures of their experiences. So in 2025, we had almost 400 people sign up for the challenge, and they submitted photos of their amazing times on the trail. And then ultimately they were put into a big raffle, and we had all kinds of local businesses donate amazing prizes, and then we gave them away to folks at the end of the Trails Challenge. So if anyone is interested in jumping on that for 2026, that is an option. I had mentioned the Prison Hill West project, so just wanted to highlight that we did a ribbon cutting for that. In 2025, we had all kinds of representation from Board of Supervisors. We had folks from the BLM state office there. We had Stewart Indian School staff, all the folks who helped us build the project, folks from Endor. We had April Wolf with Reno Adaptive come, and she had brought all kinds of adaptive mountain bikes for people to do a demonstration and try those out, since this is an accessible trail. So we were just very excited last year to celebrate the completion of that project. Just a few other events that were held on trails in 2025. We had the annual Escape from Prison Hill cross-country running race. Greg and I do it every year. It's a great time. NICA, the National Interscholastic Cycling Association, had a mountain bike competition. We have a series of running races that are done throughout the year in addition to the Escape. The Tahoe Rim Trail Endurance Run, the Statina Pay Dirt Gravel Race, which is a bike competition. We had the Sacto Pit Trials competition, which was at the OHV area, and the Bronco Magazine guided tour of the OHV area as well. So tons of trail events, tons of different ways to different people, different modes of transportation getting out on the trail. So we're so thankful that we can offer these amazing spaces to folks to have these events. I wanted to highlight the Open Space Advisory Committee Awards that we did in October of last year. We gave an award to Borderland and Sheep Company, as Marina mentioned. We also gave an award to Resource Concepts for all of their amazing work that we have partnered with over the years. And then 2 individuals, Ward Naus and Eric Ingbar, and they were both recognized for their support of trail development in Carson City and also help with the original Carson River Master Plan. So we're excited to be able to do these awards. We'll keep doing them every year. It's a great way to recognize important people in the community. And Greg and I had done some presentations. We presented to the Nevada Advisory Board on Outdoor Recreation last year, as well as the Carson City Rotary Club, just celebrating trails and the open space program. And then Marina and I both gave talks at the North American Invasive Species Management Association conference. So that's a weeds conference. We talked about Carson River Master Plan. We gave a field tour of Silver Saddle. So it's just great. That was a national conference, more Carson City exposure nationally. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Marina to talk about some of our outreach and education.
Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist for the record. So I'm going to share some really incredible outreach and education that we've done. Huge kudos goes to Erin Larson, our volunteer coordinator. She has really taken the cake with how much outreach and education that she has done. We partner with River Wranglers, which is a nonprofit that, with the goal of getting kids out to the river. We do a number of events with them every year. For instance, Trout in the Classroom, where we do trout releases along the Carson River, or at Bailey's Pond, for instance. We have a number of students, hundreds of students every year that participate in that. We also have gotten involved with some of like parents' nights at the local schools, to try and encourage parents to get their kiddos outside, involved with like our ranger programs, stuff like that. Let's see. Really incredible. Erin kind of led the effort for getting the Carson City Community Cleanup Trailer rewrapped. If you had seen that before, it was very faded, didn't have the right number. So now it has a fresh design. It's very beautiful, highlights our great program, and encourages people to help us with all of our volunteer efforts. Erin put together some really amazing stats from last year. The volunteer hour is worth just under $35 an hour. And so if you think about all of the hours that volunteers have spent on our programs, that totals to $143,000 in volunteer labor in 2025. That's incredible. There's a number of events, volunteer events that we have here in this report. Some of those I've mentioned already, like the seeding that was done on the Prison Hill West area to decommission those social trails that we no longer wanted. Voltaire Canyon gets a couple of cleanups per year. There's lots of trash dumping that occurs out there, unfortunately, but volunteers are always eager to get out there and help us clean up after that space. Friends of Silver Saddle Ranch, they had a work day near the Red House, if you're familiar, to kind of seed some native grass and wildflower species there to kind of create a nice lawn area. We partnered with the Boys and Girls Club to put some pollinator plants in at Fullstone Wetlands. They also go out there routinely to pick up trash as they've adopted that park, or that open space rather. We did some willow planting at Riverview Park with Eagle Valley Middle School students. Just lots of opportunities that we've taken advantage of to get kids from our local schools out to our open spaces and getting involved with our volunteer projects. We had a number of park ambassadors last year, 20 in total. which is incredible. I think before Aaron started, we maybe had 1 or 2 park ambassadors. And so basically that's someone that's dedicated to a particular park or open space, and they visit that site maybe a few times a week, and just they pick up trash and dog poop and kind of report back things to us that they see out on the trails. So that's a phenomenal program. Really, really happy that we have volunteers that are interested in that. On page 24 and onto 25 is a humongous table detailing every single event, all of the people and hours. And so please take your time looking through that because it's just incredible. And again, huge kudos to Aaron Larson for making this program just so amazing.
Thank you, Marina. So as you can see, we were not busy at all last year, and we're, twiddling our thumbs a lot. So I just wanted to close by just thanking the amazing staff that we have here tonight, but also our entire staff. I chose a photo for each of them to represent them here and just show how much they're appreciated by myself, but also the community and all the hard work that they do. And they are all amazing individuals. So I think with that, we will take any questions.
You guys have clones or something? I don't know. It's a wonderful report. Yeah, it took an hour. That's okay. Every year I always say the same thing. That report is very important. I hope you never regret having spent the time that you guys have to put something together like that, because I think it's really important for the community and yourselves and this board to understand fully all the work you guys do. So that's how you present it. That's your shot right there. So that's great. You did a wonderful job. You got the pictures as much as the writing, which I like that too. I only look at the pictures and flip the page. So we'll start with some comments down at Jay's side. Do you got any questions, comments?
No, you covered it. I think the mix between having as many pictures as you can tells the story the best. So keep doing that in these reports.
The reason I'm on this committee is because I've been using the trails all around Carson City without any regard whatsoever to who maintains them and how they got there. So I'm guilt tripped into this position, and I'm happy to be. Now, you guys just do an amazing job. I mean, I volunteer here and there, and I'm on the board of Muscle Power proudly. But you guys really do all the heavy lifting. Excellent.
Dan?
Yeah, obviously echoing everyone else's statements. You guys do an amazing job, and I'm proud to listen to all the hard work that you put in year over year. But I did have a couple questions. For the Prison Hill drone service, dropping the herbicide, that drone service, do they specialize in just like dropping herbicide, or is that something that you have to put two things together and, have them, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, how do they do that?
Sure, I'll take a stab at the question. Marina Lovejoy for the record. So it's an actual company. Yeah, gentlemen, it's his company. It's his business to do that. And so he'll spray herbicide. He also does mosquito abatement, spraying, insecticide for the mosquitoes. You can also put seeds in the little, drone containers, I guess, and you can use a drone to broadcast seeds. So it's kind of a new, really interesting industry. Those drones are pretty powerful, and you can really customize the herbicide mixes. You can really customize to the area and be pretty specific with where you want that drone to go. He was the utmost professional, took safety into consideration. I felt very comfortable with that treatment, and I'm really glad that it turned into an educational opportunity, and I'm excited to keep looking at the plants out there and seeing the results of that treatment, and report that for not only you all, but other professionals in this area who may be interested in doing something similar. Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just curious, and obviously there's not much innovation, attached to I think, to the work that you guys do. But hearing that kind of caught my interest, and yeah, I'm curious to see the effects, and hopefully all positive outcomes, maybe in the next meeting and the meeting after that. And then one more question, with the size of the maintenance staff, how does their manager prioritize their work? Do you have zone projects that you create on a weekly or monthly basis for their work for different areas, or can you walk me through that process a bit?
Yeah, that's a great question. Lindsay Boyer for the record. So it's kind of a mixture. So I meet with our maintenance foreman once a week and we talk about kind of his priorities he's identified. We have a lot of routine stuff, things that we're doing either seasonally or weekly. We have like a trash route, for example, where we go through and we're collecting all the trash from trailhead. So that's a weekly activity. Then there's like kind of the seasonal aspect with our noxious weed abatement. They'll spend like months just doing that kind of during the spring. And then we kind of shift gears to more unique projects like during the fall. Marina's helping to guide a lot of our restoration projects and they assisted with a lot of those. There are, like I said, certain roads that we're responsible for managing, like Ash Canyon Road, Kings Canyon Road. So those are typically done in the summer. So I would say it's kind of a mix between things that we know that we need to do kind of on a weekly to monthly basis. And then there's things that come up, like we'll have vandalism somewhere, a fence will be down. There'll be some kind of issue that needs to go and get fixed. And so then they'll kind of shift priorities around to be able to go and like address that right away and then be able to kind of pivot back to their regular activities. We do a lot of fuel reduction along the Mexican ditch, like I mentioned, removing those willows so that we can have access to the ditch and keep it flowing. That's like a year round. We can always be working on that. Willows grow so fast, it's kind of like painting the Golden Gate Bridge, like you finish and then start all over again kind of thing. So we also have a lot of projects that we're just always chipping away at as well. So they're busy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no sitting in their trucks all day.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great report. Thank you very much, and thanks for all of your hard work. I've got lots of questions, but I'm going to come bug you at your office and just ask it. But that takeout at Mexican Dam, where do you put in if you want to take out there? It's a trail, right? Is that a trail?
It's a
Question?
trail. So I'll take it. For the record, Greg Berger, Trails Coordinator. So the Carson River Aquatic Trail right now, it begins right below the dam and it goes 14 miles down to Santa Maria Ranch in Dayton. So it's a bi-county trail. Our hope is that we can someday partner with Douglas County and have put-ins that would be above the dam. And so there are people that put in above the dam now. And one of the great places to put in is the River Fork Ranch near Genoa, which is a nature conservancy center. They have there's a place you can put in the river there. You can also put in at the bridge across 395. For our demonstration float, we actually put in about 300 feet above the takeout, so just so we could demonstrate how it works. But yeah, so there's various places in Douglas County that could be used for putting locations, and we hope to really be able to enlarge the size of the aquatic trail in the future.
But we don't have, excuse me, we don't have a put in like over by the OHV at the end of Golden Eagle Lane. There's no access down to the river from Carson City side down there.
We
Any
do
way to
not
work on that?
because of private property and I mean the land adjacent to the river along there is not ours, and so yeah, we don't have a put in right there.
Follow up on that one specifically. You had recently had a ribbon cutting. Did we miss that, or I mean, did I miss it? Just like, do we get noticed as board members when there's going to be things like that? I think there's some folks in our office that worked on that and did a great job, and I'm sure Jill probably knew about it. Was she there from RCI? I just didn't hear anything about that because I've ridden by it. I passed Greg one time on a bike going down to see it, but I just didn't know we had a ribbon cutting on that one.
Yeah, I could.
Lindsay Boyer for the record. As I was saying that, I thought, did I send an email to you guys about that? So
No.
that might have been an oversight on our part. It was something where we had aimed for May, and then because of the current river conditions, we had to expedite everything, and so we kind of threw it together. And so I apologize that you guys were not included. But yes, typically we would be inviting you to our ribbon cutting. So I'm sorry you were not able.
Oh, I just wanted to
be
make sure I
there.
didn't miss it and been like, oh, he doesn't care. So, but no, that's great.
We'll get you next time.
And I've
for
got
sure.
others, I get. So.
I would love to have gone to see the canoe sink before it got to the. Was it a canoe? Rafts are going to have a tough time dragging that down that thing. So I was. Yeah, the takeout there to the dam's pretty tight in there in some spots. So.
We mostly had kayaks,
Yeah,
but we did have a raft.
Oh.
And we, the people that were in that raft put the raft up above our heads and
That's how you
carried
do
it. And, yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Cool. Blake, being the new guy on the block.
I really appreciated the report. Very excited to learn more and more about the volunteer programs. There's obviously an immense value there, and it seems like it's grown just from the information that I've received. How are you continuing to engage the community to try and continue to build those volunteer opportunities?
That's a great question. Marina Lovejoy for the record. So I'm speaking on behalf of our volunteer coordinator, Erin Larson. I'll definitely encourage her to reach out to you and to explain more. But Erin does a great job of reaching out to businesses directly. And then, to be quite honest, word has just kind of gotten out. I think a lot of businesses have maybe not a requirement, but it's definitely encouraged for businesses to kind of get involved with their community. And so a lot of businesses have reached out to Erin, whether they want to adopt a trail or just have kind of a yearly volunteer day with their staff. So that's been one way. But also, Erin puts together a really fabulous monthly newsletter, and that reaches probably a few thousand people. Because anyone that's participated in any of our recreation programs, whether it be like the kayak trips that the recreation team takes folks out on, or maybe even like our recreation sports programs, all those folks are in our system and they get our newsletter. So that's a great avenue. Erin also updates our social media on a regular basis. She's so clever and funny, and I think she makes posts that really get people excited about the work that we do. And so that's a great way. And yeah, I think, like I said, word of mouth is a big thing. I even had my mom text me and say, my friends live in Carson and they want to get involved with the volunteer program. And so I sent my mom a number of links and Erin's contact. And so it just works like that. Yeah. But anyone that's interested, any of your friends, there is never a shortage of volunteer projects. We would love anyone that's interested to come and volunteer with us. And even if someone has an idea of, hey, I hike on this trail all the time and I see that there's this need here, we definitely accept those comments and that feedback. So yeah, thank you for the question.
That it? Okay, so just when I talked about the canoe sinking, it happened with the Board of Supervisor when they were back in the 90s. They toured the river, and there's a diversion there by Buzzy's Ranch. And I can't remember which supervisor's in there, but they went swimming. That's what I was going back to, that you didn't know that, though, because you were still in grade school in the 90s, maybe. So how big's that drone?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head how much it weighs.
I mean, is it like this?
It's smaller than the bed of a pickup truck. Yeah.
So it has prop wash underneath it, then I would assume.
Yes.
And it's noisy. That would be such a cool thing to see and be. I would have paid money to come to that, so you see that thing.
It was
work.
free.
That's totally cool. So you guys do such a good job in your report that part of what there's this back, like your what do you do? Your mission and your vision is connecting the public to your resource, and you guys do a really good job with that. you just don't manage it and take care of it and clean it. You're out working with the public to engage them in every aspect of your job. That's really good. You guys do a great job. You should be so proud of that report. So I just will keep reflecting that for you guys. And then the cottonwood tree that had to come down, I had just taken a picture 2 days before they took it down because it framed the pasture there. It was a really nice picture. And you cut it down. But I knew it was sick. So is that part of the young man's work? 'Cause, you know, the worst place you can be on a really windy day is in this cottonwood grove. Especially as mature as some of those guys are getting out there, which people don't understand that sometimes. But is he gauging some stuff with that too?
Yes, for the record, Brina Lovejoy. Yeah, so Travis Navarro, our intern, who's been doing all the cottonwood surveying, that is a question in the survey that he's looking at is, does this tree pose a hazard to the public? And so if it's a cottonwood tree that's out in the middle of nowhere, you know, very far away from a trail, we might be inclined to leave that be and kind of let nature do its thing. But if it's right adjacent to a trail or there's a branch overhanging the trail, then that would warrant, you know, a safety hazard. And then we would alert our team, our maintenance team, to go and take care of that.
Well, you created habitat with one of the trees that was cut years ago with the goose nest that sits up on it
Right.
behind the red house there that squawks when you go by. I assume it's sitting on an egg because it's sitting there all the time. That's very cool. Thank you for that. And if there's no more comments, I'll call for public comment because it's an action item.
Thank you, Chair. And also, thank you for bringing up the cottonwood. One of my concerns is that we don't always respect the fact that those down trees provide a continuous habitatal type situation and actually help encourage new trees in the area because of that fallout from the decaying tree. I just want to appreciate everybody that worked on this. It's a very nice report. I would like to see added to this, because it was brought up, the olive tree. I'd like to have known where those olive trees that are being considered to take out, because the ones at Fuji Park are very much well adapted to the area and are providing wonderful habitat situations for specific birds, in fact. So I'd hate just have, because they have the title Russian and that they're not an original tree here, but more importantly, because those are parks where other trees have been brought in that are not native. But out in the sticks where you want to go with as much or as many native trees, I can see some consideration, but I don't want you to forget the importance of their existence as they are. If they're full-grown, mature, they're well climatized, they do provide good habitat, and they don't drop limbs like your cottonwood do, as far as my understanding of them. And the cottonwood, thank you for bringing it up. If you can, even take the branches out if you have to, but then leave the limbs in a non-traveled area that's not going to disturb, but it might block off areas you don't want public walking or public created trails. So I just don't want that material just hauled off to a dump. It's really much more valuable where it lays, unless it's diseased or has some sort of beetle that would then inhabit it. And other things like several of the oaks that you can find, they really make it hard. So this is really nice. I would have liked to have been able to see it on one of these beautiful screens, but I did use the one that was here to look through. It's just not numbered the same way that you would mention the material. So it made it a little harder for me to follow, but beautiful pictures. I would like to also be a little concerned about using a drone on the hills. And also all the traffic. I haven't heard a whole lot about the species report. I'd like to see that in the new master plan considerations so that we can compare what was on the hill a couple years ago, the last one that was done to surveys, told you what kind of plants, what kind of species were up there, and it seems that they're very conscientious about their spray times and their trim times and such to go with seasonal moving of the critters. So just more on the critters. I see a lot about wonderful volunteers and people in trail making, but I would really like to have more of an emphasis on, it's a habitat up there. In some places, we really shouldn't be letting people in. I'm all for inclusivity and, getting things around, but I want that to be the bugs, that inclusivity and their ability to move properly without disturbance or without blockage. Thank you.
Thank you. I forgot I had one more question that, for Greg probably. Maybe I'm overlooking it. All that OHV money, have you been able to grab some of that for that? I'm sure you have. There's a lot of money in that program that they just advertised money.
Well,
But-
the project that we just completed this year for the vault toilet and the signage, the interpretive signs, that was from the Rec Trails OHV portion. And with that project, yeah, there is money available. They actually gave us more than we asked for
Yeah.
for that particular
They
project.
seem to have-
And then when we were doing our projects down there to kind of clean that area up when it came to open space, like back in 2019, 2020, we got funding. We got a couple of grants from Nevada OHV and from Rec Trails.
So you have been active with that group. I thought maybe there's some problems with government getting it versus private or something, but no, good. That's a perfect place for them to put that money, actually. Go close to 10. All right, so.
I'm sorry, Mark, can I just bring up one other thing?
Sure, one more, yeah.
Before we make a motion to do this, I did have a question about how, and maybe it's too soon this year to determine, but in the report, maybe the board would want to hear how the trees in the city are doing compared to the problem that we had last year. Has there been any follow-up on that? Determine, what caused the die-off? And it seems like things are pretty healthy now and they're going. Is there anything to report on that, or is it just too soon?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. So I wish Jennifer Budge was here tonight. She is at a conference and because much of the die-off that happened was on Parks properties. And so while we were kind of involved, I don't want to misspeak about kind of what the results of that analysis was. I know that we have done removal where we needed to. We are doing replanting where we can. So it is an ongoing project. I don't know if we would include it as part of the open space annual report, but it is certainly something that the board has been tracking and has been wanting information about. So I'll make a note for Jen, and then maybe at the joint meeting, at least we can kind of bring that up. Yeah.
It's more parks than open space. Where's Dan?
I think he's in Paris, so yeah.
So you said you're ready to make a motion? Is that what
sure,
I've heard that?
You bet. I move to approve the 2025 annual report of activities of the Open Space Advisory Committee to be presented to the Board of Supervisors.
Have a
in the May
motion,
meeting.
can I have a second? Second, Sam. Any more discussion? See none. Call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Good job. Home run. Okay, next on the agenda. Is it 5C? I hope. Yes, 5C for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding the open space work plan for fiscal year 2027. Lindsay, you need a glass of water before you?
I was thinking I should have brought some water. No, this is going to be a heavy meeting, so I hope you guys all had your dinner before you got here. Lindsay Boyer for the record, Open Space Manager. So now that we kind of celebrated everything we did in 2025, we're going to kind of transition into talking about the next fiscal year. So talking about the work plan for fiscal year 27, and then that'll couple well with the budget discussion that we'll have after that. And so just maybe for our newest member, our fiscal year is July 1 to June 30. So this will be for activities starting after July 1 of this year and then continuing to June 30 of next year. So a lot of the work plan document that you have in your packet, a lot of this is kind of status quo. A lot of the projects that we just discussed are some of those routine maintenance activities that I mentioned. So I won't go through every single item, but I will highlight kind of some unusual things or some new things. And then, of course, if you have questions about any of it, just let me know. So Starting off with our capital improvement projects, I mentioned the Buzzy's Ranch Water Rights Acquisition Project. So in early 2026, we did complete 2 acquisitions that completed just about, I think I calculated it's about 69% of the total water that's needed for Buzzy's Ranch. But there is a remaining portion that we're still going after in order to have enough water rights to fully support the ranch. Blake, for your edification, the Buzzy's Ranch open space, when we first purchased that property, we did not have enough money at the time to purchase water rights to support the historically irrigated ag lands. So we've been able to irrigate it over the years with an ongoing relationship with the person who sold us the land. So as long as they owned water rights and applied them to the land, they were able to continue their agricultural operations. But of course, the city knew that we needed to have a more permanent city-owned applied water so that we can make sure those lands were protected in perpetuity, because if you remove irrigation off of lands that have been irrigated for over 100 years, chaos will ensue. So we were very proud to complete 2 of those acquisitions. We did purchase water from the Anderson family, so they were the ones who had sold us the land. So that was one portion of the water that we purchased. The other portion came from Vidler Water Company. And then I mentioned there's a small portion that's just still remaining to be purchased, and that's earmarked through the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act. So we have another grant from them to fund acquisition of kind of the remaining water rights that are needed. We know that there is some possibility that they will not fund the entire remaining amount that we need. So there may be a small amount, about 42 acre feet, that we may have to pick up outside of this NIPLMA grant. And the reason being is that they'll only give us enough money to support the wetland and Ducks Unlimited and kind of bird specific habitat out there. And so there are portions that are more upland that don't necessarily support those migratory birds. That's kind of how the whole application was written, was towards supporting those migratory bird habitats. So we know that there's going to be some small portion that we'll pick up separately, but ultimately the goal is to purchase the total amount of water rights needed so that the ranch will be totally irrigated through Carson City owned water rights and protected in perpetuity. So that is a project I've been working on for many years, and we'll continue working on it for another several years. Other kind of capital improvement or grant projects that we have, Marina mentioned that she's got a variety of noxious weed abatement funding for Riverview and Empire Ranch, so we'll be working through that. We do get $15,000 every year from CWSD for noxious weed abatement, so that keeps us with plenty of funding to support treatment along the Carson River corridor. I had mentioned that Riverview Trailhead project. So we anticipate in 2026 to 2027 that we'll be finalizing the design and that it'll be going out to bid for construction, which is very exciting. As far as Silver Saddle Ranch is concerned, there are several repairs that have been kind of deferred over the years. We've been working on getting the programmatic agreement updated with the State Historic Preservation Office. That's taken several years. Once we have that agreement in place, we'll have better procedural infrastructure to be able to pursue some of these repairs. Like there's some needs at the Red House to look at the roofs there. The siding on the Red House is starting to get pretty bad. And we want to do a full plumbing evaluation of the house too. So there will be some evaluations and some improvements made to the Red House. Marina mentioned the sheep project and the funding that we got to support that through the year 2029. So that will keep us busy. Moving into land acquisitions, we've got Buzzy's mentioned in multiple locations here because it kind of falls under several categories. One new and exciting project I wanted to make you all aware of. So there is an 80-acre property in Ash Canyon. Some of you are probably very familiar with it. Is a parcel that Ash Creek runs through and the very popular Creek Trail. It's like one of the most beloved trails in Carson City. This is a property we've had our eye on for several years. We've tried pursuing acquisition in the past. It is back up for potential acquisition. We had to move super fast on this. We couldn't even get it to OSAC. We had to go straight to the board to ask for authorization to submit a grant. So I submitted a grant to the Conserve Nevada program. This type of acquisition falls squarely into their mission. I think it is going to be very highly competitive. We're still waiting to hear if we got that grant or not. I applied for about 1.6 million for acquisition of that property. It does require a 10% match, which would come from the Q18 Quality of Life funds. But we're crossing all of our fingers, all of our toes. We're really hoping that we can finally acquire this parcel because, like I said, it's been on our eye for a very long time. In addition to the creek trail, which is, of course, important for recreation, it's also amazing wildlife habitat with the creek running through it and aspen groves, and there's some springs on the property and all kinds of things. So it's highly coveted for a variety of reasons. So that project made it to our work plan. Some of you are familiar with the Old Woods Ranch Conservation Easement Project. That's been a long-term project that we have been working on. This is in coordination with Nevada Land Trust. Unlike some of our other straight acquisitions projects, this would be a conservation easement, which is a unique kind of property acquisition tool where we don't acquire the property, but we acquire the development rights for the property, and it remains under private ownership. So it allows us to ensure that property is protected while also not having to take full, maintenance responsibility of the project and of the parcel. So that, like many acquisition projects, does move slow. A lot of these things they don't move super quick, and so we're hoping in 2026 to 27 that we bring the final conservation easement to the board for final approval. Moving on to kind of management activities, we've got all kinds of things. There is some bank erosion at Buzzy's Ranch Trail. We've been monitoring that. We've brought that before the board. We are kind of always in the process of trying to figure out different methods that we can implement there for stabilization. Luckily, things have slowed down. We were having some pretty dramatic erosion for a while with the high flows, but we have since had less high flows, and so things have stabilized a bit, but there is going to be a need in the future to do something there, and we're still kind of trying to weigh our options and talk with experts and figure out what the right combination of techniques is there. A new one that I wanted to highlight is the Nevada Starry Skies certification. So dark skies are something that is really important. We heard that tonight in public comment. Having these areas with low or no lights is important for wildlife, as well as just for beautification of our community. So we have been working with the Nevada Department of Outdoor Recreation. They have a Nevada Starry Skies certification application. We've met with them on site. We're looking at applying for both Silver Saddle Ranch and Prison Hill. Prison Hill has no lights. That's easy. Silver Saddle has just a couple lights that could be easily retrofitted to meet that Starry Sky certification. So we're going to be looking at applying for that in this coming fiscal year. Some other projects that I'd like to highlight, the Mexican ditch. So now that Carson City is a majority water right holder in this community, that does increase some of our maintenance responsibilities along the ditch. There is a Mexican Dam and Ditch Company, which all the ditch users are a part of and everyone pays into. But because so much of the ditch falls on Carson City property and we have the majority water rights, there are some new tasks that we're going to be doing, and luckily that those tasks and that work completed will go towards the dues that Carson City has to pay, but we'll definitely be more involved in the dredging of the Mexican ditch. The Eurasian water milfoil treatment we were already doing will definitely play a heavy role in continuing that fuel reduction and debris removal. And then there are some head gates, so actual irrigation infrastructure that needs to be replaced. We'll do that in conjunction with the Mexican Dam and Ditch Company. So we are going to have a bit of a larger responsibility as it relates to the Mexican ditch moving forward. Moving on to some other things. So the Prison Hill Master Plan that was approved in 2023, we had both short-term and long-term projects identified in there. There are a few projects that we would like to look at in the coming year. The Coons Lane parcel, we want to kind of continue monitoring the success of closing those areas off, how some of the re-veg is doing. We may need to make adjustments, add fencing, make sure that effort was really successful. The OHV area, as I mentioned, we're out there once a week. That continues to be a place where we spend our time putting in fencing and signage where needed, just to really try to control travel where we don't want it and make sure we're preserving and protecting our resources. We'll be looking at the Golden Eagle open space, which is kind of part of Prison Hill. There's some rehabilitation needs out there, so there's definitely some Prison Hill projects identified. Marina's got quite a few restoration and revegetation projects identified. She talked about that mastication at Riverview and the subsequent noxious weed treatments. Prison Hill East is an area we will turn our attention to. There's a need to kind of do some more seeding and planting in that area, try to get some more vegetation established. Sea Hill, there's some areas that we've got our eye on, and then she mentioned those drone trials. So busy with re-veg. We have all kinds of routine maintenance activities identified here, everything from mosquito abatement in coordination with health and stormwater to our trailhead maintenance, erosion control, fuel reduction, road repair, all those kind of things I highlighted in the annual report. I mentioned Silver Saddle Ranch, so in addition to looking at some of those structures and the Red House specifically and seeing kind of some improvements that it needs, there's also tons of fencing out there that's in need of repair, a lot of barbed wire that needs to be replaced. There's lots of willow removal I mentioned, ongoing weed management, and just kind of taking a closer look at those buildings and implementing priority repairs on them, like painting, things like that. Definitely some robust volunteer priorities in the next year. As far as planning activities are concerned, I mentioned it was the 30th anniversary of Quality of Life. So we are going to have a celebration at Silver Saddle Ranch. I think the date is October 24th. So mark your calendars, but I'll also be sending more formal information out from there. We want to do some videos and highlight in our newsletter and just really celebrate the fact that it's been 30 years. We had some stickers made. So just really trying to celebrate that amazing accomplishment. As far as Buzzy's Ranch is concerned, now that we have the water rights, there's going to be some more work that needs to be done. We have a management plan. We brought it before OSAC several years ago. We brought it to the board as well. We did not finalize it at the time because there was still so much that was unknown regarding water rights. Now that we have a lot of that more finalized, we're going to be finalizing the management plan. Ultimately, that's going to be a tool for working with our grazing operators to say, you know, these are the roles and responsibilities that they're doing versus what we're doing. Just kind of spelling a lot of that out more in depth and having some better documents, guiding documents. Same thing for Silver Saddle. So both need basically pasture agreements that spells out how those lands should be managed. So we'll be getting those in place now that we have the water. I mentioned the Carson River Master Plan. We're in the writing phase. We are going to be finalizing that and bringing that sometime in the next year as well. All kinds of mapping. Marina is an amazing ArcGIS user. She's able to make beautiful maps. We have all kinds of mapping priorities over the next year. The Open Space Master Plan, this is a new one I wanted to highlight. So similar to all of our other master plans, the Open Space Master Plan was written in 2000. We pretty much accomplished everything we set out to accomplish in that plan. Just as we finish updating the Carson River Master Plan, it kind of highlights the need to update the Open Space Master Plan. You know, we've really transitioned from acquisition to now maintenance and management. I think the plan needs to highlight that. We also have some pretty outdated maps that identify those remaining acquisitions. We would want to really update those maps and take a close look at what is remaining out there, that if something comes up, we would want to jump on. So there is a need to take a look at that master plan and make sure it's really meeting the needs of today, and celebrate everything that we've accomplished from the original plan. I mentioned the programmatic agreement a lot. Some of you guys might know that, some of you might not. So the programmatic agreement is a document we have with the State Historic Preservation Office, which oversees cultural resources in the state of Nevada. The original programmatic agreement was very limiting in the kind of routine maintenance activities that we could do on open space. They basically all required some form of cultural resource review, which is very timely and costly. And so we've been working with SHPO for the last several years. Ultimately, the goal is we're going to have a list of exempt activities. So putting in a new gate, fence repair, some fuel reduction in areas, maintaining trails and roads and trailheads, that kind of thing. So building in some of those routine activities that really should not have been identified as requiring that cultural review. So that's been a long project. Anything with these types of agreements does take time. We are currently on the 10-yard finish line. So I may even be finishing that before the next fiscal year, but there will be a lot of kind of backlog of work we haven't been able to do. Once we get that finalized, we'll be kind of unleashed to be able to go and do all kinds of stuff, especially out at Silver Saddle. So very excited for that project. And I think with that, that's kind of the most of our projects. We do have a bunch of trail priorities identified here. Greg is sitting here if anyone has trail questions, but ultimately I did want to highlight, going back to the mapping, we have some great mapping efforts that we're pursuing. We had done a West Side Trails map. Now we're working on an East Side Trails map. So we're really trying to get maps out so we can educate the community about all of our great trails and how they can access them. We want to update the multi-use routes map. We want to update the West Side Trails map. So a lot of kind of getting the word out and getting information out to the community about trails. So those are the highlights from the work plan. With that, I will take any questions. And I do also want to just mention for your packet, Exhibit B has a list of all of our open space properties. Exhibit C is a map of all of our open space properties. And then Exhibit D is that opportunities map I had mentioned. So that dates all the way back from 2000. It identifies all the potential acquisitions that are remaining. And that is in super need of an update because we have since acquired some of them. Some of them may no longer kind of meet our priority. So that'll definitely be a high priority as part of the open space master plan update. So anyways, that I will take any questions.
Great, thank you. This time we'll start down on the right. Have comments, questions?
Did have one question on maintenance. There's a lot of thinning at the Lakeview Park. Who's doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we work in cooperation with the Carson City Fire Department, especially for anything on the west side, because they do have funding to help support those efforts. And then especially anytime we're getting into timbered, forested area, we definitely defer to them. They have the expertise to successfully implement those thinning projects. But yes, that was a big priority for them to help protect the Lakeview neighborhood.
Yeah, it's a heck of a project.
Yeah,
They're moving
definitely.
a lot. So, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great report. Thanks. I don't have any questions.
Thank you. All good.
We put Charles Norrie, muscle powered board.
But is your mic on?
Oh, I'm
it's on.
sorry,
I see
sorry.
the light. You're okay.
No, we've been putting out a map for quite a long time now. It's pretty well dated. Our trails map, the muscle powered trails map. And everything on there that says proposed now exists. So there's that, but we still have to make a new map.
So Greg Berger and Trails Coordinator for the record. I think you're referring to the multi-use routes map?
Yes.
Yes. So we actually have Endor is partnering with us on that. They have a
good.
GIS specialist that's working on that right now.
We, our guy, not Brett, but Jeremy, our GIS specialist, he's also working on a new edition of that map. My only other comment would be that 80-acre parcel in Ash Canyon, that is important. And yeah, it's amazing how fast, we've been looking at it, all of a sudden it came up. But I think the downside of not getting it is worse than the upside of getting it. It's really important that get preserved because the downside could be chaos up there.
Yeah, Member Wiggins, for the record, on Exhibit B, kind of the math one. I noticed at the bottom right in your grand totals, the cost per acre was off. It looks like someone did sum instead of divide by acreage. So maybe correct that number. And then on the exhibit with the open space opportunities, this is a question. The state of Nevada, is there any risk of them selling properties? And are we actively monitoring these type of things?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. Thank you for identifying a math error. Always appreciate when someone points that out. So I will get that fixed before, well, we won't be bringing this to the board, I guess, specifically, but I'll make sure it's corrected for our records. As far as state lands is concerned, yes, there are several parcels. Going back to really needing to update the open space opportunities map, there are several state-owned parcels, especially on Prison Hill, in and around Moffett, a few other areas throughout the city that we definitely have our eye on. And we do have close communication with the state. We also have Board of Supervisors members who are also aware and kind of tracking that and also have relationships with the state. So, if, for example, those parcels on Prison Hill ever came up for sale, we would want to move on those right away. And so there are definitely ones that we keep our eye on and make that interest known for sure.
Okay, my turn. A few questions. That program, the agreement. I'll stay out of that word. Will it be done before you move on and retire? I mean, it's been years. Can you, without being a problem, explain that a little bit maybe? But you don't need to if it's not something you want to say. Yeah.
Lindsay Boyer for the record. So yeah, I mentioned anytime you're dealing with agreements, it just takes time. And we've been working with consultants on this, and they've said they've seen programmatic agreements take like 10 years. So ours has only taken maybe 4 years. So we're actually ahead of the curve. There's so many partners who are part of it. I mean, SHPO is a signatory, the Washoe Tribe, the BLM, Carson City. There's been interest from the Historic Resources Commission, a million drafts going back and forth with SHPO. There at one point, SHPO had lost their director, and then they had to get a new person, and we had to kind of get them up to speed. So they're just, every kind of thing that could happen has happened. But at this point, we have an approved document. We just have one tiny little thing to finish, and then I hope to bring that to the board. I hope to bring it in May. We may be looking at June or July, but we're very close. So yes, definitely before I am of retirement age, we'll have this in place, which is great.
Well, I think it's important you explain and the board understands those agreements are not easy. So they're wealthy, I guess, would be somewhere. Then my next question was, can Carson River Corridor be a starry sky place too? Or that's probably the best one there is, maybe. Maybe. I've never been down there at the middle of the night though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had landed on Silver Saddle first, and then we kind of branched out to Prison Hill because it's right there. And then why we didn't consider the river corridor, I don't know. We haven't applied yet, so I think we have room to expand that to however it makes sense. I think the only challenge with the river corridor is you do start getting into adjacent residents, which we don't control.
I'm talking about the canyon.
Oh, the canyon.
I'm sorry.
Oh, well, yeah, the canyon for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I will make sure that we discuss that with Endor.
Cool. And then your pasture management. Do you guys work with any specific agency that knows more about pasture and cattle than you guys would be expected? I'm sure you're learning a lot about it, but who's the partner in that?
Yeah, great question. Lindsay Boyer for the record. So we worked with Resource Concepts, and they've got some great folks over there who understand grazing and pasture management much better than I do. So they are the ones that did the Buzzy's Ranch Management Plan and the Silver Saddle Ranch Pasture Agreement. So we really relied on them and their expertise because they bridge that gap of understanding kind of the grazing side of things while also bringing in the regenerative ag and making sure that things are sustainable. And so kind of getting us to where we need to be on the ranches, you know, managing for the grasses and the vegetation and then also the landscape health. So.
And that helps explain to people when you're working in these plans and agreements that there's multiple levels and multiple agencies that get involved more than most people would understand. That so, and you guys have done a really good job with partnerships and talking to the right people to get it done. So another accolade. And then the open space map. Is there a piece of paper somewhere that has the points? So that if you show this piece, it had this score, this piece had this score, so that would set priorities. And we'd understand that the ones that are looking on the map, this is like the highest priority right now, for now, but with people understanding priorities change. Just a thought that would help us understand it better, I think.
That is a fantastic suggestion. We currently do not have that. So the open space opportunities map that we have that's in your packet, that was from 2000. And it was basically every single open vacant parcel in Carson was identified as an opportunity. And then how we've been able to kind of assess like the scoring is when something comes up for potential acquisition, we have an acquisition assessment form. Which we would continue to do anyways, but it's kind of a deep dive into that particular parcel. And you look at the wildlife habitat, the migration corridors, if there's, wetlands on site, things like that, that would make it score higher. And then ultimately that comes out with a kind of a priority. But given that we are planning on updating the open space master plan and that there are a lot fewer parcels left, I think that would actually be a great element to add to that map of a quick visual of like, highest priority to, medium to lower. So I love that suggestion. Thank you. I'm going to run with that.
Did I get a star on my chart then?
Yes, gold star.
And then on that list of properties, is there any donated land? Because I didn't see it on the piece of paper. Maybe I missed it. It said donated, but I didn't remember seeing that. So, but are there any properties that have been given to open space?
Yes. So if you look at Exhibit B under the column that says Carson City question 18, there are a few in there that say donation instead of a
donation.
value. And so, yes, there were several properties that had been donated to us over the years. I mentioned Moffett. That was one of our first ones. There's one called the PHKC Preserve, which is over on the west side. Let's see, Vidler Open Space, we named specifically because Vidler Water Company donated that property to us. The Washoe Wetlands, which some people may know as the Lampa Wetlands, that was a donation. So that's kind of how that's highlighted. Maybe in the future I could call that out in bold or something just so we can really highlight it. But
the font size probably had me.
It's
That's
very
what
small,
I'm going to tell you. The size 2 font's tough on it. The state lands, in the past, there was there was tried to be an opportunity. A huge piece of property up near Timberline. I can't remember the name of that canyon. Is where the trails go up on the left? Huh?
Vicey Canyon.
Is that it? I think it might be Vicey Canyon.
Yeah.
It's just a big hole right now with all the DG that's gone down the mountain. But state lands was trying to sell that, and there was some. It didn't work out with the planning commission, I would say, I guess, about what the plans were in the future. So, and then there's laws about state lands that are in their trust funds, and there's these rules, just like you've been talking about, all these different levels of responsibility. So the V&T Trail right away, I didn't see it on the list, Greg, but that was part of that was state lands too that we were working towards. And I thought you got that piece from Nevada State Lands.
Greg Bergen, for the record, yes, the part of it that's state lands, we have a license for that
That's what it is.
segment of trail. We're still, there's still a couple of other privately owned parcels along that Lakeview, where the trail is, and so we're just waiting for opportunities.
So I didn't see it on the list, all those tons of trail projects.
Well,
Did
it's
I
it's
miss that
because
one
it's
too?
it's not it's not a specific trail project because we don't have an easement or ownership, but it's always on our list for an easement when the opportunity arises.
You heard it here, folks. Thank you. That was enough questions, I think. Great report as usual and enlightening that you guys carry lots of hats or wear a lot of hats. You don't carry them, you wear them. Okay, so is there any other comments from or questions from here before I call for public comment?
Just one quick
Sure.
comment. I definitely agree with the Ash Canyon acquisition. Please always jump on these things without waiting for a meeting when there's opportunity. And that's it.
That's a good point to be made. Okay, calling public comment, so it's an action item, Danny. You're up. No? Oh, great, okay. I don't mean great, I just meant thank you. All right, 5D, discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation of the Board of Supervisors in the fiscal year 2027 open space budget.
Lindsay Boyer for the record. So now that we just talked about all the stuff we're going to do, now we're going to talk about kind of the money side of that. Just some quick education reminders for you guys. So the open space program, as I mentioned, is funded from the quality of life funding. We have acquired like $76 million since 1996 from that fund and is divvied up throughout our department. So open space receives 40% of that annual revenue. 40% of that goes towards parks capital projects and 20% of that goes towards parks maintenance. And so of that 40% that we receive every year, it's about 1.6, 1.7-ish in sales tax revenue. Fiscal year 25, which is the last year that we can have like a completed known number, it was just under 1.7. For fiscal year 26, which is what we're in now, we're anticipating it'll be about the same. You know, obviously this is dependent on sales tax and the economy and how much people are buying, but we do tend to have kind of a slow growth in the amount of revenue that we're receiving each year. And then ultimately that ends up being kind of the annual budget that we can work with. We don't receive any funds from the general fund. So the general fund supports portions of parks, fire, Carson City Sheriff, treasurers, all the other functions of the city. We are solely funded just from the Quality of Life Initiative. And one thing that is unique about our budget is that it's not a use it or lose it situation. So any monies that are unspent roll over into what we call an undesignated account. And then that ends up being kind of our rainy day account that we can use for grant match or land acquisitions as they arise. So that's kind of our budget situation. I have a million budget documents in here for your guys' edification. I'll start with Exhibit A. This is kind of just a high-level snapshot of the open space budget. Here you can see starting out with like our salaries and benefits for all of our staff. I want to note that, you know, it's not just the open space staff that we support. We're supporting portions of other people in the department because we are all one department and we all help each other. So for example, we get support from our department director, from our business manager, from our office specialist, you know, all these other staff that are helping to support the functions of our division. So we do pay a portion of their salary. That also works in other directions. So for example, part of Greg's salary is from the general fund. So only 75% comes from open space because he does work on projects citywide. So we try to make sure that those funds are kind of fairly spread out based on how people are functioning throughout the department. One change this year, we propose that 5% of my salary come from Parks Capital. That's because I do support some parks grants. So for example, the Mills Park grant, I help to write that. I'm helping to manage portions of it. So to make sure that that's fair and it's not coming out of open spaces budget, we've allocated a small portion of my salary to help support some of those efforts because I have the experience to manage the grants and can do that for our department. One really exciting thing that I want to highlight, the volunteer coordinator that we've been singing her praises this evening, Erin Larson. we did propose to reclass her position to community outreach coordinator. So in addition to all the amazing volunteer efforts, she's also been kind of our de facto like marketing person for the department. She's working on social media. She's updating our website. She's getting the word out. She's starting to get into like press releases and all kinds of things. So her duties, because she's a communications major and she's so successful and capable, her duties started to kind of expand just beyond volunteer management. And we also saw that that was a big need for our department. So we're reclassing her position to be kind of more broad. She'll still have the volunteer component, but then she'll bring in all of those other kind of marketing and outreach components that the department needs as well. So that's another example. So 79% of her salary will continue to come from open space because so many of those volunteer projects are in open space, but then her salary will be diversified from other funding sources throughout the department because she's working department-wide. Some other changes this year. So we have our 2 seasonals. We had a really high budget in there, but we were really never coming close to that based on how many hours our seasonals can work per year. And we only have plans to have 2 right now. We don't have plans to have any more. So I just corrected that to be a little bit more reflective of what the annual cost is going to be. As far as machinery and equipment is concerned, we are looking to purchase a masticator attachment for a mini excavator that will help with all the mowing and willow removal and fuel reduction we do along the ditch. So that's a piece of equipment we're proposing to purchase this year. And then this document just kind of walks you through some of our biggest line items. So for example, professional services, this is basically the account we use for all of our ongoing contractual services, whether it be portable restroom rentals, restroom cleaning services, our cultural resource review, water rights consultation, other consulting and contracting services, trail building, equipment rentals. 50,000 of this fund came to support the Carson River Master Plan amendment. And then we've also allocated $75,000 for the future open space master plan amendment. So that's a big line item for us. The next biggest one, maintenance management. This is basically the catch-all for like 99% of the things that we do in open space. So that's buying project supplies, whether it's native plants, herbicide, if we're buying signage, tools, small equipment, materials, fencing, signposts, all of those kinds of things. That's all coming out of our maintenance management account. So that, like I said, that's kind of a catch-all for a lot of the activities we do. Operating supplies, this is one where we capture our volunteer program expenses like volunteer swag and other volunteer appreciation. We also share all the park ranger expenses 50-50 with parks. So whether that's their uniforms or their safety equipment, anything to kind of support that park ranger program because they're working department-wide. So they come out of that account. We have a pretty decent travel and training budget. I always support staff attending professional development opportunities where they can, especially conferences. So we had staff go to a lot of conferences this year. So we definitely keep those in the budget. We never know when those are going to arise or where they might be. So we keep some money in the pot for that. Same thing, park rangers, we split those travel training costs 50%. There are a few line items within the budget that kind of multiple departments are paying into, one of them being fire suppression. So we are just one of several that pay into that pot that basically when and if there's a fire, there are funds to support that effort. So that's one line item that can't be adjusted by the committee. It just kind of is a set amount. The Horse Creek Ranch Stewardship Management Account, there was a $50,000 endowment that came along with that conservation easement when we acquired that. We've spent like just under 3,000 of that. So we have about 47,000 remaining. This is another one that can't be adjusted by the committee. It's a pot that we keep in case there are something that comes up at Horse Creek Ranch that we would want to support. As far as inmate payroll is concerned, we don't utilize inmate labor that often, but we do sometimes, especially for larger projects. So we do earmark a little bit of funding for that. The ISC General Fund, another one where everyone's paying into a pot. That line item can't be adjusted by the committee. It's basically all the other departments that help support our function, like finance, IT, city manager, that kind of thing. Fleet management, same thing, managing our fleet. That's another set item. And then just the two last ones, capital improvement. So this is anytime we have a grant project, we kind of we earmark those grant fundings in the capital improvement, so we know that that's where those monies are going to come out of. I do have one correction here from when I wrote this. I had written that we had 2 recreational trail grants. We were only awarded one of them. For Centennial, so it's actually going to be closer to $20,000 in match, not $44,000. But this is really where we earmark a lot of our matching funds, and then just the funds that we'll use for those grant projects. I mentioned that there's going to be some water rights that we'll have to pick up out of this grant. The Ash Canyon Flap project that Greg was talking about, we do have some match allocated to that project, so very kind of grant and match focused in that line item. And then I mentioned that undesignated account. Again, anytime we don't spend any of those line items or any of the ones I haven't mentioned goes into this pot. The pot just continues to grow, and we use it as our rainy day fund. So as of right now, the kind of current estimate of what's remaining in there after our 2026 water right acquisitions is about $2 million. So that's kind of high level. Some of the other exhibits I included in your packet are all just kind of more for your edification. So Exhibit B, for example, this is a snapshot of the budget, all the different line items that we have, kind of what is actually spent versus like what we anticipate expending. So I want to just highlight the fiscal year 2025 actuals and the fiscal year 24 actuals. If you're curious about like what we actually spend in a year, those would be the columns to look at. It kind of just gives you a sense of actually what's being spent each year on salaries, as well as kind of all these miscellaneous line items. Exhibit C just kind of shows you our 5-year CIP plan. So these are a lot of the projects that we have in the queue, maybe not for next year, but for future years. So we just kind of keep this as a running list so we can kind of prioritize when and how we're going to fund some of these projects and make sure that they are on our radar for the future. Attached to that, same thing, we have our open space equipment fleet. So as things start to reach their useful life, we're identifying when they need to be replaced. And then just an example of the capital improvement projects that were approved for the current fiscal year that we're in right now, which included water rights, a piece of equipment called a dingo, which is going to be a really versatile tool that we'll be able to use throughout open space, and then some asphalt repair at Morgan Mill. I included an org chart in here so you can see that community outreach coordinator and where she'll fit in. Shifting things around a little bit, she's going to be reporting directly to Jen. The idea is that because of those marketing and outreach duties, bringing in kind of the department-wide lens that Jen can bring, she'll still be working with Marina very closely on the volunteer side of things, but making sure that she has kind of a department-wide lens to look through. And then the final exhibit is just an overall quality of life fund snapshot. So if you're just curious about kind of the other funds, the Parks Capital, the Parks Maintenance, you can see all of the funds that are coming in, how that interest revenue works versus our expenses. Boys and Girls Club, for example, does receive a portion from Parks Maintenance every year. So you can just kind of see how the overall fund is divvied up. So I recognize that that is a lot of information I threw at you, but with that, I will take any questions.
Okay. Are we going to be tested at the end of the evening? Jay, we're starting with you this time. Good. Sam. Keith.
Are some of these reclassifications for staff, like title, and is it to justify a raise in their salary and to keep them on board? Do we need to do that, or is and independent of the individual, is the position that is there, is it consistent where if we were to lose Aaron, for example, not to use, just to use her as an example, that position is still going to be consistent with our operation and that need?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say the answer to both of those questions is yes. So part of the reason for doing a reclass is often when someone's position starts to creep and they start to have more duties, and we recognize that they're doing things that might not have been originally identified, but because of their skill set, they're able to do that. So on one hand, it is correcting that, but on the other hand, those duties started to creep because they were a need within the department. And so, yes, even if Aaron were to go away, the position would still remain because we recognize that we need to have kind of someone who is in charge of overall marketing and outreach for the department, along with kind of the community engagement, volunteer side of things. So I think it's a natural progression of how our department has kind of developed over time, that we have kind of such an amazing presence in the community now that we kind of need someone to be in charge of all of that and getting the word out about all the great things we're doing.
Thank you. So this is the hard work I think that we need to be doing, and my opinion is that we should support this. But if we were to look at this over a 10 or 20-year window from now, how much bigger does the open space operation of Carson City get? And is the budget going to be able to support that? I mean, are we staying within the bounds of what was thought about in 1996? Are we creeping? Are we doing the right thing there with regard to budget and cost control, those kinds of things?
Yeah, excellent question. Couple things. So we have about 1.7-ish coming in every year. We are never spending that.
Right,
So we
thanks.
always have 300,000 to 400,000 that we're socking away in that undesignated every year. It's how we've been able to grow that undesignated account to have that rainy day. So that's one piece that as of right now, we are still having an annual savings. Another thing to mention, this year we started really looking at positions and figuring out, if they are operating in a more global way, how can we make sure that they're being compensated from other parts so that open space is not carrying the burden of that. So like with the community outreach reclass, for example, we were paying 91% of Aaron's salary. Now we're only paying 79 because parts of that are being picked up through the general fund, through Parks Capital, through other project funds that aren't open space. But then as far as kind of just open space growth is concerned, I feel like right now we've finally gotten to a point where we're pretty fully staffed. Getting the maintenance staff that we have, getting some kind of part-time intern help, all of those have been kind of goals over the years that have finally come to fruition. I feel like for the next few years, I want to be stable. I want to just kind of see how that is working. Make sure that, heading into any sort of economic uncertainty that we're kind of just remaining status quo. There could be in the future a need for other maintenance staff, but right now our maintenance team feels pretty good and comfortable with what they've got. We've looked at the need maybe in the future for more natural resource staff to help Marina because as you guys saw, she's got 99 projects going on. So there are these things that are in the back of our mind. But right now, we just want to kind of remain where we're at and see how that works and get some of these big projects like water rights under our belt and done so that we can just kind of focus on more the status quo.
So if our revenue is static, roughly right around the 1.7, salaries aren't static. And we have baked in some cost of living increases. I mean, that's got to be a significant thing on your plate as a manager. Is there room for that in these analysis, or you feel like we haven't, like, I see that in every year's budget we've spent less than in every case. I just know what it's like to make payroll. I know what cost of living increases need to look like, and are we able to keep people, and just making sure that that's worked into this budget when it's more than 1.7. I guess that it won't ever be more than that, or incrementally. How does it? What? how does it increase?
Yeah, so it's 1/4, 1% of sales tax. So it's all coming from sales tax revenue of stuff purchased in Carson City. So that's why everyone should buy their cars here.
Oh, yes.
Any big, purchase, buy your groceries, get your gas, all those things, I always say people should come to Carson to buy them. They're also often cheaper, but, so yeah, it does grow, incrementally over time. Like I think a few years ago, we were sitting at like 1.5, 1.6. And so it is growing each year, but I also recognize that, the economy can change and people's spending habits can change. And so, there is a possibility that that can fluctuate over time. I think as far as the cost of living and the salary increases are concerned, that's something that citywide, as they're creating our, cost of living increases, those are being budgeted on a citywide level to ensure that we have sufficient budget to be making those decisions to determine, yes, we can do, such a percent of COLAs and things like that. So I feel comfortable where we are now, especially knowing that we do have that excess each year. And then also we do have that rainy day fund if something were to happen. But I also, once we get through water rights, and if we get this very important 80-acre parcel, which hopefully that will be almost all funded through grants, we're going to be kind of slowing down in our expenses because I do worry about all of these things as well.
Last thing, kind of tongue in cheek. Jennifer's not here to support this, but she's okay with that 5% coming from parks in your is your salaries like, that's brand new for us right now? It's 95 us.
Yeah,
We slipped that in while she was gone?
It was her idea.
Okay.
It was her idea.
No,
So,
I'm sure.
no, she recognizes that I am helping department-wide, which is great. We're all a team. But she does not want open space to be paying for parks projects. So that was her idea to make sure that we were being fair. So, yeah.
Blake?
The only question I had was regarding the adjustment to Aaron, and you spoke on the drop to 79. Thank you.
So, as usual, I got a few. So, but I want to follow up here with Keith that for years now, Open Space has discussed this spending versus maintenance, and Jen has become very clear. We're not buying a bunch more land here because we need to maintain what we got. So there's been a lot of discussion about that, Keith, so that they manage that, so they don't end up with more staff than they got money to do anything else with, because that's not what that question money was about. It was about purchasing. But they're doing an excellent job of balancing that so far. And when they add staff, when I was first part of this process, I didn't figure they'd have more than about 3 staff. So I think it's great what's going on, and it's developed as the more properties come online, and the responsibilities for maintenance and the moving to the resource side. So they're covering all the bases. So they've been doing a good job with that. So that was just a comment on top of that. I read on there was auto locks. I just want to make a comment on auto locks on the bathroom. The behind the bathroom becomes the bathroom. And so just always a thought. When you lock the bathroom door, they're going to use these because they needed to do something. So I would hope that there's some thought put into that before they end up with that kind of a mess. But just a little bit of experience. And then how do you pay for your signs and interpretive panels? I couldn't find that in the budget, because those aren't cheap. So, you're going to answer that? I'm sorry, I'm looking over there.
Oh, Lindsay Boyer for the record. So any of our signage or inter panels, that's usually coming out of that maintenance management account, which is kind of a catch-all for everything. But actually, we've had most of our inter panels funded through grants.
Cool.
So usually if we can throw them in as part of a grant application, we do. It's a great way to get education to kind of couple with the project that we're working on. And then also be able to, get that funded elsewhere. So that's been kind of a model that we've been implementing the last couple of years to get those on board.
Now, I might be an item behind, but I don't remember finding any mention of master plans for the SSR or the river corridor. Were they in there in some part of this paperwork, like in the work program, or?
So Silver Saddle Ranch master plan's been on our radar for a really long time. Then we kind of took a detour to Carson River Master Plan. Now we're detouring over to Open Space Master Plan. So it probably should be on that like 5-year CIP list. We might even be farther than 5 years out though, honestly. And I think getting the Open Space Master Plan is going to be a great foundation to then it'll probably identify Silver Saddle as a need, and any other locations. The Carson River Master Plan will ultimately be like an exhibit or some kind of a component of the overall Open Space Master Plan. Same thing with the Prison Hill Master Plan, which we completed. So those will all be under the umbrella of the Open Space Master Plan, which is in desperate need of
So
being improved.
I misspoke again. I'm talking about the canyon lands.
Oh, yeah. So the Carson River Master Plan identifies the need for future Carson River Canyon planning. It doesn't go in depth, so that would be another one probably identified out of both of those efforts that,
Okay,
yeah,
so
someday we need to turn our attention
they
there.
won't be forgotten. It's just that they weren't in the notes today that I could find. I was kudos to Erin. It's because of her talent, skills, enthusiasm. She made the position that way. If you had AmeriCorps sitting in there, that used to happen a lot for that position. I don't know if they did that job, but I know they were part of it. She needs to be getting accolades. So I hope that with this new title, a new business card, and a new door thing, that there's a raise involved with this because she stepped it up so much. But that is all about her. And to replace her would be very difficult, I think. I hope she knows how much you appreciate when you get a pay raise. That's always true, right? And a new title. So I just had to say that so that she understands, that we all understand that she's a real asset for this. Another boo-boo that I made was the Burton Ollie property. I didn't see that as yellow on the map, but that's an old map, you said. The gravel pit, is it ever going to be on a list, or is it just like a no, heck no? Because the choo-choo is supposed to do something there too.
Yeah, that is, that's part of kind of an ongoing discussions we've been having with Granite. There's some ideas about, because they own the mouth of the Carson River Canyon corridor. So there's some ideas about us potentially acquiring parts of that, and then maybe parts of the rifle range being used for mining. So there's kind of a whole like plan that is in the works that involves not only open space but parks, kind of a department-wide discussion. There was some stuff included or tried to be included in the lands bill that's going through right now. So it's like that's kind of it's a gen project, and it is a big project, and there's a lot of discussions in the works, but it's a bit nebulous right now, perhaps too nebulous to put on a map, but just know that there are some strategic discussions happening surrounding that.
I figured that. It's good that we asked that question. So, maybe next year when you're working on the budgets, the CIP projects, if we took a tour, would be wonderful as a board to go look at those sites and have that discussion, so that when we're sitting here just not looking at paper, we've been there, touched, feel, and smelt it. That's a long ways down the road, but it's just a recommendation. I have one that I've talked to about, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I use your Prison Hill Trail a lot. And that road up to that trailhead is terrible. And I know I mentioned it before. I would really hope somehow you could work with the city or work with the crews or get regrind or get something, because now there's 3 roads going up there, and more people park at the water towers, the water tanks, than the fancy trailhead, because that road is just terrible. There's people who park at the bottom. It's like this island that's this beautiful trailhead that you need a 4-wheel drive to get to. So I've challenged Keith, because he picked on me last time, to bring his Porsche up there. So I just wanted to make that comment one more time. I'm sitting not as the chairman anymore, but as Jay's assistant, asking that question. So you don't need to answer it. We're okay. You just need to make that statement. And then I have my last comment is, has the budget that we just reviewed and made comments on already gone to the Board of Supervisors?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. Yeah, that's a good question. So because of our snowstorm problem, normally you guys would have heard this all in February, which would have been well before anything went to the board. Because it's now April, there has been one board meeting already where this information did go to them. There's going to be a second meeting in May where they ultimately finalize it. So the board has not approved the overall city budget, but all of this information has been conveyed to the board initially. And so that's a function of kind of the snowstorm and not being able to give you guys the presentation when we normally would, which is February.
So if, was there any burning issues that you heard tonight that would need to be changed for that next meeting with the BOS?
I did not hear anything that needed to be changed, but if there's something that you heard, let me know.
No, that was a question, actually, yeah. I didn't have a little note to say this should be in the budget. But there's some narrative that isn't as important as the dollar numbers per column, so we're fine. So is it still an action item if we're passing something that isn't going, it says to the Board of Supervisors on there?
I think so. You say they haven't finalized.
Yeah, there's still, there's still one more meeting, so it's not finalized. So I would say that it still makes sense to
See
To
that
make a
can it go to
motion.
the board? Because it is already gone to the board and it's not going to be changed, so.
make
I
a
don't know.
motion for good measure.
All right, well then, we'll look for it to be an action, keep it an action item, I guess, then. Are there any other comments and questions after I spent my 5 minutes? There's more, actually. So if there's no more questions, public comment for this, it is an action item.
Thank you. I just want to say, Denny French, Carson City, Nevada, how much I have picked up through this meeting. I appreciate it very much and all the work that's gone behind and all. I hadn't heard or read anything about the fuel consumption situation. Was that fuel under maintenance or equipment, or how does that fit in there? I didn't see
You mean fuel for the vehicles?
vehicles.
Well, do you have any more questions for staff so I can direct that to them from here instead of?
Was that see, I'm not allowed to question staff.
No, you
but-
can question me. Give me
well,
the
I'm
question. Is there
putting it
anything
there.
else?
Well, that's just
No,
it,
I'll have him,
that-
I'll have him answer it.
the fuel, where it fit into the budget.
Okay.
And also, I just want to appreciate Mr. Commissioner Schaefer's question about us living in our means. I had brought that up at the supervisor meeting. We're growing very fast, but we're not getting the income yet from the sales that we would like to help support open space and such. And so, but for the city as a general. So I appreciate the fact that you finited it, you put it there for people to see. I appreciate that very much. But I am concerned about some of the issues as far as changes and fluctuations, and that rainy day money might be coming really in handy soon, unfortunately. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll let you answer you guys have your own fuel tanks or do you go to the Chevron station?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. There is a line item within our budget for vehicle fuel. And there are special gas stations that we go to.
Oh, the
and-
CFNs?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's something I didn't know in your budget, that the price of gas going up so high that. Oh, diesel went nuts, that's right, yeah, that's right. They're gonna have to be pushing their cars around for a while, here after a while. Okay, so it's back to the committee. Is there any more comments or questions? Then they call for a question. Anybody make a motion for me?
I'll move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors the budget for fiscal year 2027 as presented.
Can I get a second? Second, Keith. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? None? Unanimous. I'm going to ask the board if you want to take a 5-minute break or not, or we move ahead. We're all good. Okay. Here we go. Staff updates. Where we at? Where Marina come up and sat down? Oh, you're second on there after the director. You had to sit here all this time to give that report. So we're on 6A, the directors, huh?
5A?
Oh, yeah, you don't.
Are you looking at an old agenda
Yeah. Five E.
Oh, I'm looking at the agenda from the meeting that we didn't
from
have.
February? Yeah, so we tacked on Horse Creek Ranch, which is item 5E. So
Well, I'm not prepared for that one, so, can you read that for me?
Yeah.
Let the chairman do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Got the agenda from February or whatever. That's funny. Yeah, February 17th. Different time zone. Can you read that for the record?
Sure. For possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the annual monitoring report for the Horse Creek Ranch Conservation Easement for 2025.
Yeah, and I remember seeing that in the email I got. I just printed the wrong agenda. Okay, thank you. You're on.
For the record, Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist. So Lindsay, a little while ago, mentioned the Old Woods Ranch Conservation Easement and explained a little bit about what a conservation easement is. We acquired this conservation easement, Lindsay, in 2008, quite a while ago, almost 30 years ago. 20 years
Long
ago.
before you were working here.
In any case, we have had this responsibility for monitoring this conservation easement for quite a while now. And so what that entails is we go up there at least annually to conduct this monitoring effort and to make sure that the landowner is in compliance with the tenets of the conservation easement. All conservation easements function a little bit differently, but generally they serve to retain the conservation values of the land. And so we purchase the development rights of that property. So it cannot be, subdivided or developed outside of a specific building envelope that does exist for the property that Lindsay will speak on here in a little bit. So essentially, there's a number of things that we look at to make sure that the landowner has remained in compliance with that conservation easement. And long story short, they are in compliance still to this day. So that's great news. My intern, Travis, and I went up there in October of last year to conduct the monitoring. It takes several hours. And largely what that monitoring entails is taking repeat photography to really track those changes over time. Things are looking pretty good. There are several natural resource concerns that we continue to monitor and make note of year to year. And so to begin providing recommendations to the landowner, we have provided recommendations ourselves as well as met with NRCS. That was in maybe 2024, the Natural Resource Conservation Service. We are hoping to continue discussing with NRCS their recommendations for the property and receive a very detailed, comprehensive natural resource plan for the property. We're waiting on that, but that will entail, a number of conservation practices that the landowners could engage in to kind of restore some of these degraded natural resources up there. And those, specifically the forest health, it's pretty dense and thick up there. There's some beetle infestation, mistletoe. And so those are things, and not to mention, the fuel hazard up there. Those are things that we would like to see addressed. The pasture is grazed by cattle annually. And so there's been some degradation there to pasture health. We would like to see some improvements made there. So just things that, over time, as the land is being worked and utilized, there's things that could be done to kind of, get us back in a direction for improved natural resource health up there. We do have plans to meet on site with the Nevada Division of Forestry this summer. They will need to update the forest stewardship plan for the property that was created when we acquired the conservation easement. So that is out of date, and we would like to see that updated, and that's a function of the Division of Forestry to update that. So all that being said, we're keeping a close eye on things up there. We do annual monitoring, and so we'll just keep plugging away and coordinating with the landowner. But I will let Lindsay talk a little bit about the build site.
Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager for the record. So, in addition to looking at the natural resources and the conservation values and the wildlife habitat and kind of all the things that you'll read in the report that Marina put together, you will probably remember from April of last year, we had the landowner come and give a presentation about the home site that they were looking to build. And we kind of reviewed and approved that plan. It had gone to the Planning Commission as well. So after all of that, I think they determined that some of the requirements to build that home site was going to require some major improvements to the road. The road was going to need to be paved. It was going to need to be widened. They were going to have to remove like a lot of trees. They were not feeling super good about having to remove that many trees. So ultimately, they have kind of pivoted. They are no longer going to be constructing those homes, at least for now. And they are now just looking to make some improvements to the existing historic cabins that are on site, which have been on site. I think one of them is over 100 years old. Within the easement, they're totally allowed to make improvements to those cabins to preserve and protect them. So it's all within what they're proposing is all compliant with the easement. But I think they're hoping that way they have a place where they can go and enjoy the space without having to kind of create such a impact to the land through development. So that plan is continuing to work its way through community development as well. There may be another different plan in the future, and we'll just continue to keep you updated. But for now, that's kind of the direction they're headed. But ultimately, the conclusion is that they're compliant with the easement. You know, we look at these natural resource concerns and we make suggestions, and we're helping to connect them with the right agencies to help support those efforts. But as far as the tenants of the easement are concerned, they're in compliance. So I think with that, we'll take any questions.
Which side? Blake, any comments?
I'm sorry, I don't want to prolong the meeting, but some of the provisions that are the conditions of approval or what the owner has to do, or the things that you report on where you say the owner is in compliance. When there's a conservation easement recorded on a property like that, the requirements to maintain those certain items, is that at the cost of the owner? Like the stream erosion that you were showing, and and I suppose the cattle grazing is something that they're going to have to manage better, right? Because part of that conservation easement is to maintain it in a good, pleasing community asset way. But is that at the cost of the owners to do all of that?
Marina Lovejoy for the record. I'll start answering that question and then I'll let Lindsay probably take over. Ultimately, yes. And there is an endowment account, almost $50,000, that was established when the property initially entered into a conservation easement. So that money has been set aside and not really touched for a number of years. That money could be used by the landowner to do this work.
Lindsay Boyer for the record. So to answer your question, I mean, ultimately, it is their private property that they maintain. As long as they're compliant with the easement, they're not required necessarily to do the stream bank things, because that's just an example. That's not specifically identified in the easement as like thou shalt not have stream bank erosion. So these are suggestions that we're providing to them. The stewardship account is a money endowment that was donated to Carson City to hold as part of the easement. So if for whatever reason the landowner wasn't able to make an improvement, or we felt like there was some reason why we needed to go in there and use that, there is money that Carson City can use to implement some of these projects. But on the whole, most of the improvements that they have made or that they will make will be their expense to have. Or there may be grants that we can connect them with, like NRCS, and other funding sources that can help offset some of those costs that they might not be familiar with, some of these projects. So ultimately, that stewardship account is there so that, if we, the conservation easement holder, need to step in for whatever reason, we have money that is set aside, dedicated to the property outside of our quality of life Q18 funds. And that money that was set aside came from the original owner of the property. So it's since been sold once to somebody else, but when we did the conservation easement, they gave us 50 grand on top of that. So I hope that answers the question. Okay.
That stewardship account, looking at the budget, it looks like $3,000 has been spent since it's been donated to the city. Is that sitting in some low risk investment fund, or is that just the money there and no one can touch it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it is in its own account dedicated to just Horse Creek Ranch, so it couldn't be utilized for any other property or any other purpose. But it's funny that you mentioned the interest piece, because I was thinking like, oh, this maybe should be in an interest bearing account. So that was actually something that I noted I was going to follow up with our finance team about.
Question on the monitoring schedule. It always looks good to use the same time of year. The originals were in February. Not a good time to probably go out there potentially with winter, but this gets to my question. Are these surprise visits you do, or are you just going to try and do it in October every year? And you can kind of get at what I'm asking is a surprise visit, maybe a little randomly, you might see something different than what if you give a month's notice, we'll be there on this date. So just curious how you handle, and maybe it's a general statement for this easement and others.
Rena Lovejoy for the record. I'll probably start that question and have Lindsay help me a little bit. They're not surprise visits other than I give hopefully a week or two notice. Sometimes the landowner wants to be there and hear what I have to say and what I think, which I definitely encourage because I want to hear, what they are noticing as well. I don't think that our tact is to try and have any gotcha moments with the landowners. We want to be working in partnership with them for the conservation of this property. But it's a point well received that yes, the original monitoring photos were taken in February, and that was probably out of our control. I, of course, wasn't working here at the time. But the conservation easement timeline can kind of take a long time or happen fairly quickly, and you just kind of need to get those photos when you can get those photos. But I certainly could include, October photos of the following year, 2009 or 10, let's say, so that you could have a longer term comparison, October 2010 to October 25. I could consider doing that if that would be helpful. Anything else?
Lindsay Boyer for the record. So the reason why they were done in February is typically these baseline documents have to be completed at the time of close. So they have to be completed as close to the closing time period as possible. So we were closing on the conservation easement in February. That's why they were done in February. And then I think October was chosen moving forward because it's kind of end of season. You get like the full growth. You're not impeded by like snow or something like that, early spring. So that's kind of how that time frame got completed. Like Marina said, we're hoping to have a very cooperative relationship with the landowner. We don't want to have those gotcha moments. We do give them a heads up we're coming out of respect for them. Based on the things that we're analyzing as part of the conservation easement, if there was some major violation, we would know about it probably whether we gave them notice or not, because it would be super apparent, like they built something they didn't say they were going to build or something like that. But I will say that the current landowner, so this is the second landowner that we've worked with, these conservation easements follow a property, so no matter who owns the property, it'll always be there. They've been awesome to work with, very concerned about the conservation of the property. Like I said, when they found out how many trees they were going to have to remove to build that road, they said, never mind it. And I'm sure cost was a factor, but they also really were concerned about the forest and having to remove too many trees and impacting the aesthetic and wildlife values. So they've been great to work with. And I think that's the thing with these conservation easements is we're really developing a long-term partnership.
Any more questions? It is a action item. So Public comment.
I just left my green on accidentally. I wasn't anticipating. Just to practice. Denny French, Carson City, thank you very much. I had noticed this particular horse ranch situation as being one that I didn't understand. How come we were buying the fact that they wouldn't sell it out to big builders or such, and to keep it for the conservation and the watershed and all of that. But I've seen that I'm not able to clearly think what is their responsibility as to the conservation side of it, because it hasn't been really spelled out, and I'm trying not to direct it, but it would be helpful for me to know, is the grazing that I'm concerned about, the overgrazing and the drainage, part of the, hey, we just need you to move your cattle here certain times of the year so that this place can regrow past the soil stage, because we, want to make that. So those clarifications, if there's a space that I can look that up myself, I'd be glad to. But right now, it's not real clear to me what's a got to do on their part and what's not. If they want to do their cattle in ways that I don't think they should, or such, like, that's not my business. But if the land that they're having those cattle on isn't tended properly, that land then has the erosion possibilities and other concerns that would then affect the creek or this or that. And so the clarification, so if Lindsay has a suggestion or if Lovejoy does, as to where I could look to see what the specifics they really are responsible for, and that what we are then asking them to do with their money and what we then will supply with our time and effort. And I appreciate the fact that they get up there and take these pictures. Having it on the same time every year is great, but the visits shouldn't necessarily be on the same time every year, so that you get to see it when it's full of snow or when it's at this point in the heat of the summer. So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Who pushes the timer? Oh, there. No. It's fine. I was just curious that it keeps turning on, but nobody's near a switch. So I go, there's the master, the key master back there. You got it. Thank you. Okay, I had comments. Would Nevada State Lands have something that would explain conservation easements, do you think? Is that the website you might send them to, or not?
So
I might be using the wrong word too.
No, Lindsay Boyer for the record. So as Marina mentioned, each conservation easement is unique, and each one is a legally binding document that outlines the requirements of the landowner. I'm pretty sure the conservation easement is on our website. It is certainly something that we have brought as part of packets in the past, so it's absolutely available somewhere as part of a past meeting, but I'm pretty sure it is on our website. We could start including it as an exhibit each year to refresh everyone's memory about the tenets of the easement, just so it is there. But just to explain a little bit further, so when you think about these conservation easement documents, a lot of them have very high level conservation objectives, such as, like, don't build a golf course here, don't subdivide it into 1 million houses, don't timber the entire forest and sell it for profit. So when you think about, those are very high level things that are included in the easement. And then some of these natural resource concerns are very, I don't want to call them low level, but they are more in the minutia. And so they can be compliant with the easement as far as not building a golf course, and there can still be some natural resource concerns that we can bring to their attention and help them coordinate a solution to. If that
That's a
makes
good,
sense.
thorough answer. Thank you. Yeah.
I might want to add, I'm sure since it's an easement, it's a recorded document, and that's available at the recorder's office associated with that APN.
Yeah.
So that's public knowledge and available, from the assessor in the recorder's office.
Any other comments or questions? Call for the question. You may make a motion. Anybody?
I can do it.
Okay.
I move to approve the annual monitoring report as presented.
I have a motion, second. We have a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimous. Thank you. I found on my tablet here the right one. So now we're at staff updates. And poor Marina, I feel bad for you. You keep yawning. And that's not rude to me. That's not to pick on you. I think it's just funny. You want to get the heck out of here and go home, man. It's a long day. I really appreciate staff sticking out this late with us. This is not Blake. This is not a normal meeting. Normally, it's not as intense with so many facts and figures, but it's the program. Totally, 100%. All right, you're back on stage, Marina. I think I'll read it, right? For discussion only, Senior Natural Resource Specialist, and Open Space Manager. Report, activities related to projects managed by Open Space, including within the Carson River Corridor. Marina and Lindsay, both. Stereo.
Lindsay Boyer, for the record, Open Space Manager. I will tell you about Buzzy's Ranch, and then I'll kick it over to Marina. So I had alluded several times tonight that there were several water rights acquisitions completed in January 26th of this year. So I've got the numbers in front of me so I can tell you them. So we acquired 203.51 acres or 915.795 acre feet. From Vidler Water Company, that was for just under 2.3 million. And then we did a second acquisition with the Anderson family. So those are the previous owners of the ranch. They had a small amount of water rights remaining that they had been applying to the ranch. We acquired those as well. So that was 86 acres or about 363 acre feet. And that was for a purchase price of $730,000. So I mentioned between both those acquisitions, that's about 69% of the total water needed for the ranch. And then I had talked about how Sniplema is kind of the remaining piece to scoop up that last piece of water that is needed. So we have $1.8 million in grant funds that we'll use to acquire the last piece. It's going to be about 694 acre feet, give or take. The reason why it's give or take is some of the due diligence that Sniplema required of us is we had to complete a water study and a water report. Specifically, that water study had to quantify the number of acres that could beneficially support migratory birds because that's the way the application was written. And so ultimately, the result of that water study will inform the next steps of that process, which will be an appraisal. So the water study will say they can put X number of water to beneficial use here, and we're going to be proceeding with an appraisal later this year. So we'll be doing a phase 1 ESA as well. And so those are kind of the next two biggest pieces as part of the Sniplema project is concerned. We've also been working on creating an option agreement. Vidler Water Company is who we will be purchasing that last piece of water from. So we want to make sure we have an agreement in place because these projects take a million years. We don't want to have anything happen to the water in the meantime. So working on that agreement as well. But I am looking forward to completing this water rights project because it's been a big one for us. So with that, I'll let Marina speak to the rest of her items.
For the record, Marina Lovejoy, Senior Natural Resource Specialist. I'm very happy to speak with you all about the last few months. I'll try to keep my yawning to a minimum because now I'm self-conscious. Okay, so I'll start with the Carson River Master Plan. Lindsay has mentioned this a bit today during tonight's meeting. But we're making slow but steady progress on that document, and I'm really, really proud of the work that we've been doing. We're in the writing phase, and writing is really difficult to write cohesively and consider all of the recommendations from technical experts and the public. And so we really want to thoughtfully create this document that's going to guide us through the next several decades managing the Carson River area. I am really proud to share that I went to a conference in March, the River's Edge West Riparian Restoration Conference. That's in Grand Junction every other year. And I presented a poster that speaks to the Carson River Master Plan update. And I talked about all of the engagement and how we're really balancing strategies for how to manage natural resource protection with providing recreation opportunities. And I thought that that poster and the message was really well received, and I got lots of great questions and engagement. And so it was great to go somewhere else and talk about Carson City, and people were really excited and enthused to hear about Question 18. A lot of places do not have that type of funding, that type of dedicated funding, and so it was cool to show off our program. On to cottonwood surveys. I mentioned this earlier, but my intern, Travis Navarro, I am just so proud of him. He has been diligently surveying cottonwoods, like I've mentioned. And he started near the Mexican Dam and has worked through about halfway through Silver Saddle Ranch, the river corridor there. He has surveyed over 2,000 cottonwoods. That includes like little saplings all the way up to the 30+ inch diameter cottonwoods out there. And what we found is that beavers are predominantly targeting trees less than 10 inches diameter breast height. So that's maybe like that. So it makes sense intuitively. Beavers are going after the smaller trees, but they will go after those 30-inch diameter trees, like the really big trees out there, if they're in close proximity to the river. So this information tells us how we need to adjust our management, where we need to adjust our tree wrapping protocol. So it's really cool. So at that same conference, I also had a poster talking about all of Travis's survey efforts and the results of that work. And that was really well received also. Travis and I also, we presented at the Watershed Forum that's put on by Carson Water Subconservancy District. Travis has been working for me for less than a year, and I made him present at a conference, and he did amazing. And I thought that this community really received that information well, and they were excited to learn how that could help them manage their own cottonwood galleries in their own respective areas. Let's see. We participated in Trout in the Classroom again with river wranglers. I got Travis out there, and he seemed to really enjoy engaging with the students and sharing his own angler stories, and so I thought that was really neat. Let's see, revegetation and restoration. I mentioned earlier the Riverview Park mastication out there and all the work that volunteer and staff have done to broadcast seed. I mentioned earlier there is a large invasive weed presence in the absence of that dead sagebrush. We were expecting that. I applied for funding and should be getting the agreement any day now to pay for herbicide and additional drill seeding. The sheep. So it's year 20 of the sheep program, if you all can believe it. We've been working with Borderland and Sheep Company this whole time. About 2,400 sheep are out on the hillsides right now. We kindly ask the public to keep their dogs leashed when they're hiking near the sheep to prevent conflicts between the sheep and the dogs and the livestock guardian dogs and people's pets. So please take that into consideration. I mentioned also that we have about $90,000 in grant funds from the Nevada Division of Forestry. Much of that pays for the fire department to water the sheep every single day. About half of that paid for installation of a fence around the Quill pasture off of Kings Canyon Road. There's a large pasture there just west of the Long Ranch neighborhood. And that neighborhood, the Long Ranch neighborhood, has wanted grazing there for a while to knock those fuels down. But we needed a fence to keep the sheep away from the Quill water treatment plant. So now we have that fence. We can have the sheep grazing in there for the first time in a very long time this year. With that, I want to read into the record a letter from Mr. Ted Borda of Borderland and Sheep Company. This letter is dated February 13th of 2026, and this is in recognition of the Open Space Advisory Committee Award. So he writes, "Dear members of the Open Space Advisory Committee, on behalf of the entire Borda family, I want to express our sincere gratitude for this award and for the vision you have carried forward over the years. Your commitment to preserving and enhancing the open spaces of Carson City has created opportunities that benefit the entire community, and we are honored to play a small part in that work. Our family has been rooted in this community for more than a century, and it means a great deal to us to continue in contributing in meaningful ways. Being able to use our livestock to help reduce wildfire risk on the west side of Carson City is both a privilege and a responsibility we take seriously. We are proud to support a program that protects the land, strengthens the community, and reflects the values that have shaped this region for generations. Thank you again for this recognition. We look forward to our partnership for many years to come. With appreciation, Ted Borda, Borderland and Sheep Company."
Well written. Very nice.
So again, we're just so appreciative of that partnership. The The sheep project, in general is a collaborative effort. There's the Forest Service involved, there's the Washoe Tribe involved, state lands, many private landowners, plus the city. So we could not do this project alone by any means. And so thank you to all those great partners. Okay, so I want to briefly mention a couple volunteer updates, and then I'll be done, I promise. So today is Volunteer Recognition Day, April 20th. Now you know.
What do we get? We're all volunteers this day too.
Big thank you.
Oh, stickers, yeah, there we go. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so we've mentioned this today, but we have incredible volunteers here in this community helping not only parks and open space, but citywide, helping us do just all of our normal functions in the city. And so we thank our volunteers so much. And Erin Larson, our volunteer coordinator, for helping us manage that program here at Parks and Open Space. Erin did provide a little bit of an update from this amazing event that she put together this last weekend. It was an Earth Day Trash Bash. And so we had almost 100 volunteers across 9 different parks and open spaces around Carson City. And they basically picking up trash and dog poop and pulling weeds. A couple hours last Saturday. And this has been like an initiative that Erin's wanted to start for a few years now, an Earth Day celebration cleanup event, and she pulled it off, and it was a great success. So she's doing great things, and on the back there's a table of past and upcoming events, and that is it for our update.
One more thing, sorry, Lindsay Boyer for the record. I'm gonna bring Greg into our report as well, and he has an update about the e-bike working group that we are looking to convene.
For the record, Greg Bergeron, Trails Coordinator. So, yeah, we would like to develop an e-bike working group. As you know, electric bikes, or e-bikes as they're called, they're growing in numbers exponentially. And there's a lot of opinions and perceptions and misperceptions about them. Fortunately, in the state of Nevada, we have an NRS that defines what an e-bike is and describes generally where they can and cannot go, with some exceptions left for municipalities. And so the e-bike working group would look specifically at Carson City and what are our needs? In Carson City, who rides e-bikes, where, why, when, what are the benefits and what are the impacts? What are the opinions, perceptions, and misperceptions? I'd like to have the committee develop and conduct an online survey, have at least one open house. I'd like to conduct some field surveys and observations, hopefully using Marina's intern for that. And then we can develop, develop a report and decide, are there any actions that need to be taken? Do we need to have education, speed limits, or any kind of ordinances or policies? And then present our findings and our recommendations back to both this committee and the Parks and Rec Commission, and then possibly take that to the Board of Supervisors. But anyway, I'd like to report back to our committees at least by the joint meeting in December. And so I'm asking for one of the committee members to volunteer, and this is not an action item, so you don't have to discuss it among yourselves and decide, but you can just come to me afterwards and let me know if you would like to volunteer to be on that committee. So, any questions? I'll take questions.
I have a question. Are you looking also for community involvement on that working group? If we know some folks that are very avid get around towners.
If you think you have somebody that would be a good person to put on the committee, yeah, I'll take the recommendation. Right now, we're looking at OSAC, PRC, transportation, and then we've got Lindsay and David Navarro and myself would be on it. So.
We'll start on that side. Blake, any comments?
That's very interesting. Thank you. I guess, what is the impact in general just on the e-bikes, and we can keep it real brief, on the trails? Is there torque issues or issues with that and maintaining them? I'm just unfamiliar.
Yeah, good question. That's a lot of the stuff that we would actually go into what, what are the impacts that we have here in Carson City. But in general, there's quite a bit of research into that, and the findings generally speak to that e-bikes don't don't have a higher impact than a traditional bicycle on a trail. What e-bikes do, however, is they allow people to travel farther, longer distances and things like that. So those all add to impacts that require additional trail maintenance and things like that over time.
Thank you. Just curious.
Sam, oh, you got some more? Okay.
No, are these comments on the overall report, staff report?
Three,
Not,
I
not
guess,
just the, only one. How much are we paying the fire department to help water the sheep? $90,000?
No, thank you. I'm glad that you asked for clarification. Marina Lovejoy for the record. So that grant from the Division of Forestry is over 5 years, about 90,000 over 5 years.
Oh, okay.
About half of that roughly went to installing that fence, paying for
Okay.
materials and labor. There's a bit of money in there for like signage, some miscellaneous supplies, and then the remainder of that is for the fire department to water for 5 years. And so per season, it's maybe like $4,000 or $5,000 per
okay.
season.
I was gonna say, I heard a number of fire
Yeah.
department watering the sheep. I thought,
Yeah,
what?
it
Maybe we
pays-
should get them to help and we could issue them an award so we could get a letter from them.
Yeah, the fire department
How much
used
can it cost
to,
them to water? Do they have to buy the water from the?
I don't
No,
believe
I'm not
so.
gonna get
It's
into there.
municipal.
Just start a
Yeah.
fire to come for free.
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
But,
No, it's a great partnership, and so definitely want to, pay them, for this effort. It's a lot of time. Yeah.
Sam?
Great report. Just one thing to touch on for the e-bike working group. I would just personally recommend looking for someone in that group who is just on the younger side. Someone that might be engaged with that community. I have never ridden an e-bike. I don't own an e-bike. I would love to volunteer. I just am not a good person to speak on that. But I think just getting someone's opinion that is probably out on an e-bike frequently, younger, seeing that side of things, that perspective will probably bring a lot of good insight for your group.
Nothing. Well, the e-bike thing, I got a couple of them, a gravel and a mountain bike, and I love it. And it's an age thing, so there's not a lot of youth out there. It's a senior citizen thing that then go back in the mountains again. But the problem with the youth are those electric motorcycle looking things that are kind of bigger than a bicycle. They're tearing it up. So they're a problem. So a youth representative would be wonderful. Maybe the bike smith or Dennis would probably know somebody maybe that could recruit. But part of it is you got to recruit part of the sheriff's department too, because a lot of this goes right back on the sidewalks and in the streets and crossings. And so when I was on the state bike board, we just started to deal with this. And there's a lot of communities that have dealt with this. California, I guess, has had a bunch of deaths with these kids with these bikes getting whacked because they're not part of the traffic flow. So I'm great that Carson City's doing that. So they had a discussion, and maybe the Forest Service could be a part of it too, because the Basin Unit just released their plan in the basin and gave 70 miles of trail to the e-bikes or something that they can ride now that they couldn't in the past. So, and the federal regulations like you can't ride an e-bike on the Forest Service part of the Carson City trail system. People don't understand it. So it's great that the committee's happening. So, so it's the only comment I was going to make. Any else? Is it an action? Oh, it's a discussion only, so I don't have to call up for public comment. So great job. Are you guys tired of talking about yourself? You deserve all this credit. So where are we at now? We're on 7A, update from Foundation. Carson City liaison. Usually Jen says something, I thought. You got something, Lindsay?
Lindsay Boyer, Open Space Manager for the record. So in your packet, there's a report that the foundation provided provided us with. Just an update on the ongoing projects that they have. Aaron was our Open Space Advisory Committee liaison for the Parks Foundation, so that may be something we want to consider in the future if
Put it
anyone,
on the agenda next time.
yeah, if anyone wants
Yeah.
to step into that role. But ultimately, you can review the attachment in your packet for all the activities they've been working on.
And then we're at 8A, OSAC future agenda items. Anybody have anything that wasn't on the list? It's not a joint meeting, so we get to be by ourselves again, right? It's not a joint.
The
meeting,
next
right?
one will be joint in
Oh,
June.
man, December. Yeah, because we missed ours that pushed it. Oh, okay. Okay, well, Jay gets to worry about that one. So if there's no future agenda items, we're beyond that. And we're back to last public comment.
Thank you, Chair. Jenny French, Carson City. I'd like to bring up the bikes situation as far as the group to get together a panel. Blake Anderson impressed me as an enthusiastic lover of this community and utilizer of many of the areas around here, and I would just like to recommend somebody maybe check with him. He was an applicant for a position on the commission. Oh, did Anderson? Williams, right? Oh, okay, now, what was the young man? I got you both mixed up. Bryce. I've got him here, I just had you mixed up. Bryce Collins. He's the young man that was applying along with Brenda Hunt. And his enthusiasm and his ability to get in the positions he's had in his resume, as well as his willingness to learn. I mean, I would just like to add to anybody's workout that a little Tinkerbell should be on every bicycle. I was approached while I was out on the trails recently, very quiet person coming up to me, and I had no idea they were coming. Had I gone left or right, I would have at least a hello, I'm coming from some. But some of these electric bikes move so quickly and so quietly. So just as a requirement, I know that one trail area had little Tinkerbells bells that they had to give away, and I'm sure those disappeared the first minute they were put out, but that would be even helpful. But yeah, I'm sorry, I got the gentleman's name wrong, and I'd been calling you wrong all night. Welcome. So at least I brought the right agenda. Sorry.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. I just didn't want to be alone in this.
That will be the only one on my obit that I goofed up one agenda.
No, I think this meeting went very well, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thanks, Danny. Okay, all I need is somebody to ask for an adjourn. So moved, somebody? So moved. Done. Thank you. And after this...